Rescue the Fosters is about changing the foster system. We want to ensure every child has a safe environment to grow and become healthy, successful adults.
Additionally, when I was in the foster care system, I had to defend for myself. Rescue the Foster is here to empower the youth aging out of the system and offer resources to ensure they are not dependent on the government.
What we observed was that children become institutionalized and end up in prison and providing the government with more funds.
Rescue the Foster will provide coaching, resume writing, interview skills, professional attire for interviews, budgeting, applying for college, and obtaining housing.
We want these youth to live the most free, successful life possible.
It is their right and our responsibility to ensure that our future kids and grandchildren can live happy lives.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord.
Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
Good evening and welcome to Rescue the Fosters. I am Gino, your host, and as always, next to me, the co-founder and co-host of Rescue the Fosters, Miss Sylvia Beatty. Sylvia, how are you tonight?
I'm good, Gino. How are you?
Good, thanks. Enjoying the summer weather here in Michigan. It's beautiful today, absolutely gorgeous. Um, Man, am I not looking forward to winter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't even mention winter right yet.
it's so funny. It's like 90 degrees today, sunny, and I'm thinking about winter already. Like,
I know.
not
Why?
good. I don't know. I gotta get rid of that pessimism. I guess
Yeah,
I
you
don't know.
really do.
Not good. Anyway,
So
another
why?
great show to line up for us tonight. It's the Saturday edition of Rescue the Fosters. Have you noticed we have a whole bunch of different editions lately?
Yeah. Well, it's random. It's whatever I decide that we're gonna do.
That's true. Hey, she can do whatever she wants, folks. She's the owner. She owns the business.
Right?
No, I love doing these. And another great guest with another amazing story to tell. And I stay tuned, listen to the whole story, and I want you guys to recognize the patterns again. We talk about this every time, but just notice that there are similarities between these stories. Now, obviously, they're unique and individualized, but there are a lot of patterns you'll notice. So, Sylvia, if you can please introduce our guest for tonight.
I would love to introduce our guest. So, Bailey Templeton is a homeschooling mother from Illinois who was wrongfully charged with child neglect after her son was diagnosed with cancer in 2023. After 140 days of fighting in court and in the hospitals, Bailey won her son back with charges dismissed with prejudice. After facing off against the very system she was raised in, Bailey now focuses on all of her efforts on restoring constitutional authority, lobbying in Washington, DC and Springfield, and trying to help as many as possible fight the same system that silenced her in 2024. Thank you, Bailey. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Bailey, thank you so much. We were talking a little bit pre-show about your story, and I always find these stories compelling. And what I always see is, especially the mama bears, man, you guys have a God-given thing to protect your children. Like guys,
Absolutely.
yeah, we protect, we're big and strong and all this stuff, but man, the women, don't cross them. Don't cross them. These systems are evil and wicked, and they're going after the wrong people. So Bailey is a fighter, and I'm just really interested in hearing your story. But let's start right at the very beginning. I know you were actually in the foster care system yourself. So can we
Yeah,
start like when at your earliest memories?
sure. I want to preface this by saying I stayed with my biological mother for most of my life, but she had been a foster child herself. And from what she had told me, she was sex trafficked through group homes in Iowa. And she had told me my whole life that if foster care ever came to our house, that I would be raped. I would be sent to different homes and raped. So when she developed borderline personality disorder from all of the trauma she went through, my cat's coming to say hi. She became an abusive mother for most of my childhood. She couldn't cope with what had happened to her. So she was abusing us at home. And whenever CPS would show up at our house, we would lie because I didn't want to get sent into homes to be raped. So we'd lie and we'd never tell the truth about everything going on. Hang on, I'm so sorry. My cat. Um, it's a heavy conversation. Stay out of it, kitty. I'm so sorry. So there was a couple occasions where there was too many bruises and there was no way we could hide what it was happening to us. And one of those occasions, my mom had cracked my head open, and I ran away, but she called me in as a runaway. And the cops came and found me. They took away her teaching license because she was a teacher, and she had child abuse charges. But still, at this point, CPS didn't take me away. They let me stay, and we moved again. And it took for me reaching out as a 16-year-old pregnant girl for help for CPS to actually get involved. I mean, the school saw everything happening with me, people around saw everything happening with me, but I had to start making calls to like a CASA worker. I'd looked up online how to get help for what was going on because my mom was completely unstable on drugs and alcohol, and I was pregnant, and I knew I had another life I needed to take care of, so I needed to figure out how to make things happen.
So Bailey, I'm going to
Long
stop you right there. Sorry to
Sure.
interrupt. Okay, so pattern number one. Sylvia, how many times have we heard this story that the abused is calling for help? They're supposedly calling an agency that is supposed to protect children from abuse, and yet she had no help from that
Yep.
agency. How
It,
many
it
times have we heard that?
so many times. And even working in the system, do you know, as a transporter, I was told if you go into a home and the family needs help, you get them the help before you call CPS because they don't even do their job. Okay. And this was working in the system, so they know it's a problem. When the children need help, they don't come. When they don't need help, they take them. It's a complete pattern. And I would, and you saying that your mom saying if you went to group homes, and that's one thing that I always talk about is the kids that go through the kids home, they're trafficked, they're sexually abused, they're sex trafficked, and they are, it's a trafficking through the group homes. So
My mom always said she wanted to write a book about what happened in her life, but at 16, finally, I suppose, CPS stepped in, and my mom, she refused to sign over her rights, but they put me into emergency care using the guise of that I was pregnant and homeless because she had taken off and I was living in a hotel by myself. Um, got moved into my first home, and it was just weird for me because my mom said, "Hey, go to this office. They're going to help you get an apartment. They'll pay for you every month because you have a baby. As long as you're going to school or working, they're going to make sure you have your own place." So, of course, I showed up there. Little did I know I was walking into my own trap. And they said, "We're going to take you to a foster home today." So I had a laundry basket. And that's all I had. Got it loaded up in the back of the car, driven 35 minutes away from where I lived, where I went to school. Mind you, I was pregnant and I was a junior in high school. And this had already been my fifth high school. So they're moving me 35 minutes away to a different school district while at this point I was like 4 months pregnant. Um, Dropped me off at this house and said, "You live here now." And this family, they had no interest in being foster parents. Like there's some families that are in it because they really love the kids, and there's some families that are in it because it's a good paycheck to go on the side. And this was one of those families that it was about the money. There's no food in the cupboards ever. And I was left there when they would go out to eat every day. And I refused to go to school, which what 16-year-old pregnant teen would want to go to a new high school? Their sixth high school, and this is a huge school compared to the schools I grew up in. So I refused to go to school, so they just leave me at the house all day and there's no food. One of my friend's moms had brought me food, and I lived off of what she brought me for 2 weeks before they finally moved me to a new home because they knew I wouldn't go to school. I was refusing. I wanted to go back to the school that I was in, back around people that I knew. This is extremely traumatic for someone to be picked up in the middle of the night and moved anyways. Even if you're a teenager, I was a teenager that was pregnant. I could have lost my baby and all the stress going on, but they didn't seem to care about that. They moved me to a new home who happened to be a college professor in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. I won't say his name, but if anybody knows who I'm talking about, send it to him. Um, He was taking showers with his 9-year-old daughter every night. And I walked in on that, and I was too afraid to leave my room for the rest of the time that I was there. 9-year-old, this man was in his 50s. And so I go into early labor under all the stress that's going on. I'm about 6 months pregnant. I go into early labor and they take me to the hospital, and I call my mother because I still get to talk to her. She's still my mom. She never signed her rights away. She was dysfunctional, but she's still my mom, and she's still better than these people in my eyes. Better than the 2 homes they've dropped me off at. I want to go to my mom. I'm having labor pains, about to give birth to a child. I wanted my mom. So she showed up at the hospital, and my 2 foster parents wouldn't let her in the room. And I screamed at them and said, "You're not my parents. I want my mom in here." I ended up getting the labor slowed down and stopped. They sent me home, but I can't go home with my mom. I have to go home with these strangers who I just kicked out of my hospital room. And the entire call back, and I say this part to, if any foster kids see this, so you know what you can do when you're being abused in a foster home. They were screaming at me, telling me there was going to be consequences for my actions, that this was never going to be my baby. It was their baby, anyways. And I grabbed my phone and called my caseworker, knowing it would go to voicemail. And she heard everything on that voicemail that they were saying to me. And they picked me up the next day and moved me. But when they lost their license for fostering, they only lost their license to foster teenagers. Now they're allowed to foster young kids.
Well, I want to cut in right here because thank you for saying, because the kids would come to me as a caseworker and tell me what was happening, and I would go to my supervisor and I would say, "Hey, I want to move this child. They told me yada yada," and they'd be like, "Do you have any proof?"
Yep.
So the fact that you called while they were saying it was the proof, and they can't say that, right? Because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what they always kept saying to me was, when every time I said I want to move this child, they would say, "Can you prove it?"
Yeah.
And that's literally what they go by. So I was telling the kids to actually video what was going on in the home,
Mhm.
because I needed proof in order to move them.
Right. Right. And I don't know why I thought of that in the moment, but thank God that I did, because I called and they had me move the next day. I went to school, and when I got out of school, my caseworker was there moving me to a new home. The third home, I'm not going to complain about. I think that they genuinely do care about the kids. They've adopted plenty of kids out of the system, mostly teenagers without families. No complaints from them. I think they were great. But to be placed with a pedophile when you're 6 months pregnant with your child, and to be told that your baby will belong to them, I can't imagine how many other foster kids who are pregnant go through this. And I found it really curious that they didn't want to take me away from the abuse until there was another child involved. And I say that because once I had turned 17, my son was probably 6 or 7 months. I can't move out till I'm 18. They had offered me, I remember sitting at the table with a caseworker, and she offered me a monthly amount of money for my son to also be a foster child. And at 17 years old, I said, "No, he is mine. I don't want your money." But how many other 17-year-old girls say, "Okay, I could use that extra money for diapers and formula and clothes," and they sign that paper giving their kid to foster care without knowing? I said, "No, I got to take my child with me when I was 18, but I don't think that gets to happen for a lot of pregnant teenagers in foster care. I don't think they get to take their babies home." And they lure them with money to do so.
Yep. Yep. That's so true.
So after I got out of foster care and moved out on my own, CPS showed up quite a few times. Quite a few times. Every time I've had a child, they show up within the first 2 weeks with crazy allegations every time. And every time anything happens, they show up. Every single call that I ever had was unfounded until my son was diagnosed with cancer in 2023. And that's such a story. And I'll start from the beginning. And it's so much that happens that it's hard to believe, but I can promise you this is America. I'm not talking about a different country. This happened in America, and it's happening every single day. My son, I took him to the ER, the bloody nose, because it was a bloody nose I'd never seen before, very clotty, and something just felt off to me. And on the way in, I remember looking at somebody and saying, "My son has cancer." I just knew it in my heart that something serious was wrong. Mama bear's intuition. I've raised him by myself. They're homeschooled. They're just with me 24/7. So I knew something was off. And we take him to the hospital and they do an x-ray on his leg because he complained about some growing pain. And the ER doctor said, well, I think this is a tumor. I think your son has a tumor growing in his leg. And obviously I was just over emotional. I didn't expect that at all. It was freaking me out really bad. That ER ended up calling St. Jude's in Memphis, Tennessee. And somehow St. Jude's in Memphis, Tennessee wanted my child immediately. And I know that everybody talks about how St. Jude's is the best hospital in the world and they're really good with kids and they've got all those heartbreaking commercials and donate here. All the celebrities donate here. You should donate here too. St. Jude's is the worst children's hospital I've ever been in my entire life because they're doing things working with the system to continue to medical test on children, even if the children aren't sick. And I will go forward and explain why I believe that. We showed up there shortly after his initial diagnosis. So they have to have a biopsy to give an actual diagnosis. So right now it's up in the air. This might be a cancerous tumor. We don't have proof, but it might be. We get down to St. Jude's and they do a blood draw. And I don't know how many of your viewers get into the deeper, darker holes of the internet, but there's this thing called adrenochrome that's been studied very widely about adrenalized blood extracted from people, and the ingestion of it, it's kind of like the Voldemort effect, where it gives you a longer life, beautiful skin. It's like stem cells times 1,000 to have this adrenochrome blood. And the darkest of people out there, they do ingest this as a drug. It's all over the internet. I mean, you don't have to believe it if you don't want to, but it makes my story sound a lot more believable if you do. Because they put a VR mask, so an Oculus, on my son's face, which covers his eyes in darkness. There's usually a game in there that they can play. They give him the 2 little controllers for it. They put his arms out to start doing the blood draw. Immediately, the mask dies. So he's sitting there in just darkness, complete darkness, arms being held down while there's a needle in his arm digging around because his vein had collapsed. And they, instead of pulling it out and going to a different one, they just kept digging at him. I had brain surgery in 2017. I've had many medical tests and blood draws. I've never had one like that before, where it was pretty much intentionally, you know, there's nothing coming from that vein. Why have you spent the past 2 minutes digging in it while he's screaming? So at that point, it was almost impossible to get another nurse to be able to poke him for an injection, for a scan, or for a blood draw or anything else because he was so scared. They took 14 vials of his blood in that moment. I just want to throw that out there. 14 vials of a very sickly boy's blood while he's screaming and crying, asking for help. You only need a couple drops of blood to do pretty much each one of those tests that you need. So I thought it was a little bit extra for them to do that in the first place. The second day, we get presented with this woman walking in with her long fingernails on a clipboard, just clicking them on the back of it, a stack of papers. And a thing with St. Jude's or just medical consents in general, when you go to hospitals now, they don't give you what you're signing. They just say, go ahead and sign this. Do you want it printed off? Most people say, no, that's just going to take too much time in their day to sit there and read it. I'm not most people. So I want to read what I'm signing because that's a contract. That's a binding contract that you're signing. You don't know what you're signing away when you sign it. So this lady says, we would like for your son to participate in this thing that we do at St. Jude's. She never told me what the name of it was, but she kind of described what was going on with it and that it was voluntary. You don't have to do it. You can walk away at any point if you don't want to do it anymore. Just hearing those 2 things told me, oh, I don't need to do this. No, thank you. It's voluntary. I'm not going to volunteer anything here. I'm sorry. I love all the children who are sick, but my son's sick right now and this is my priority. I don't need to. Whatever you want from him, no. The answer is no. I did some research later on about what that no was that I said. St. Jude's has this program that they want all of their children on called the T Bank. And the T Bank is the tissue bank, basically. So they go in there and they do these biopsies, but they also take healthy tissue from sick children and they keep it in this bank, I guess. But on their website, right there on their website, it says these tissues and fluids can be used in products that may be sold. I'm going to let you guys sit with that for a second.
Okay, that's the first I've ever heard of that. Now, I've never trusted St. Jude. I can tell you, well, I did early on in my life, not the last 10 years. All these nonprofit so-called hospitals that are helping children, they're all trafficking them and selling body parts and doing all kinds of heinous things. That's stunning.
It says it right on our website. I've taken this to the White House correspondent that I speak with. I'm not going to put his name out there, but he said if the DOJ doesn't expose what I did, then he's going to. Because it's right there on their website. I mean, if you believe in God, you have to believe in Satan. And if you believe in Christians, you have to believe in satanic people. And one of the things that they do is they have to tell you what they're doing to you, and you have to consent to it for them to be able to harm you. So these medical signatures that we're putting there, you don't know the weight of them. I had no idea what she was presenting me with, but I said no and looked into it later. They wanted to take extra tissue from my child and sell it in products that they're making. And they're doing this to all the sick kids because once the parents are like in this complete stage of franticness because your kid's sick, it's easy to get them to sign anything. So they're operating on fear, just like any demon level type of thing would do. That's how they're doing it. So the next day we needed to get an MRI and a CT scan. They couldn't get him to take a poke. The oncologist looks at me and says, well, if you aren't going to cooperate. And I said, excuse me, what do you mean cooperate? Do you want me to hold him down? Because I'm not going to do that. He said, no, I'd never ask you to hold him down. Then what am I not doing to cooperate? I'm sitting here trying to coax my child into this shot that you're trying to give him, but I'm not cooperating because they want you to physically hold down your child in these hospitals. And I wouldn't do it. So they wouldn't let him get his MRI. His CT was also scheduled, which didn't require a poke, and they refused to let him have that too. So he like had to starve the entire day waiting for these scans, and they wouldn't let us leave the room because he wouldn't take the poke. It's just the decorum of everything. This is a child that you're telling me has cancer. And then by the end of it, they tried to tell me that they thought it was in his groin, his hip, his knee, and his lungs. So they're telling me it's stage 4, it's everywhere. By the time I leave St. Jude's, they're like, he's gonna die. It's all over his body. They had no proof of it because I'd never looked inside of his body. But we left after a really bad biopsy experience. They were supposed to do that biopsy. And obviously at this point, my son's not okay with needles. He had never had that issue before with other blood draws, but now he's afraid of them because of the way that they handled the situation. Sure. Now he's scared.
Of course he would. So Bailey, real quick with the MRI. So they didn't do the MRI, but yet they're telling you he's filled with cancer, stage 4. It's horrendous. Do you think, and this is kind of a rhetorical question, I mean, do you think that they were using your age against you, obviously, thinking Absolutely. You're just naive and young? We have this is an easy one for us, but then you were rejecting, so they were getting a little ticked off about it. Absolutely. And so they're like, okay, well, that didn't work. We're going to strike her with fear and tell her that her son's just inundated with this cancer all through his body.
Yep. I believe so, because I would go back to the hotel. So there's hotels attached to the hospital. You don't ever leave the hospital grounds, really. It's a really weird gated community type of situation. But as we're like walking through the halls, it looks like there's other kids there, but they all look like they're dead. They're like lifeless beings in wheelchairs. And I just kept telling myself that's not going to be my son. Like I had already felt this feeling in my chest of, we are going to have to leave St. Jude's because something bad's going to happen. And I had my boyfriend at the time, we split up throughout all this stuff going on. He couldn't push through it. I could. So we split. But my boyfriend at the time, I looked at him before we left. I said, if I feel weird about this hospital, you need to trust me when I say we need to leave. Well, after all these things had happened, time for the biopsy, there's different ways you can sedate. You can sedate with a shot. You can sedate with a mask, a drink. There's different ways to sedate a child. I remember when I got my tonsils removed that they put the mask on my face, or they even let me put the mask on my face. And my mom was in the room when it happened. That's not the case anymore. They don't want parents in the room. Why? Because this is what happened when I was in the room. My son said, I don't want to wake up after the biopsy. And they called in psych saying my son was suicidal.
Wait a minute. How old was your son?
9.
He's 9 years old and he's suicidal and riddled with stage 4 cancer. according to them, to both these
Yep.
different places.
And also, at one point, he had said he wanted to punch the oncologist in the face because my son's homeschooled, never had a physical exam before. I've been a pedophile hunter for 7 years. I've made it very clear to my children, we don't let people touch below your pants. Well, the doctor came in, pulled his pants down and grabbed him. No consent, not telling him what he was going to do. And my son obviously said, I'm going to punch you in the face if you do that. So not only is he suicidal, but he's homicidal in his charts. All because of this biopsy experience. They put him in as suicidal, homicidal. So we sat there waiting for psych. We're in this room waiting for the biopsy for like 2 to 3 hours before psych comes in and clears him. And he agrees that he just said he didn't want to wake up right after surgery and feel the pain. That's what it was. He didn't want to feel the pain from whatever they were going to do to him. But we go for the sedation, and I explained to them we need to do the drink, sedation, and then the mask. Like get him something to make him sleepy so he's not really understanding that you're smothering him with this mask. And it took us a while. I think it was a really high stress for me because of what had happened the last time. Also knowing my son was going to be put under for the first time in his life. I was just feeling all sorts of not okay with what's happening. They came in with the shot instead of the drink when we had made it a very clear plan of what we were going to do. The anesthesiologist came at my son with the shot and he started screaming and wailing around. And there's nurses all around him holding him down. They left bruises on his legs, holding him down. Apparently, the anesthesiologist said that he kicked her in the face. Mind you, he can't move his leg very well right now. So if he did, he was terrified of you, first off. Second off, I told you he was going to fight you if you came after him with a needle. You needed to do it this way. You did it anyways. You're scaring him on purpose. Every time they poked my child, they scared him first on purpose.
Which links directly back to the adrenochrome.
Exactly. And it can't just be my kid. It can't just be my son. So he's screaming, he's fighting, nurses are holding him down. I'm like pacing the room with my hands on my head. I don't know what to do. The oncologist and another nurse had walked in at this point. Dr. Popo and Kimberly Proctor are their names. And they had walked in at this point. What's the oncologist here for? Well, I'll tell you about that later, but he came in to tell me something thinking my son was already sedated after I'd already signed the consents for what was happening. This other nurse comes in and they hear me screaming at this point. I said, get your hands off my son. He told you to stop. And I had to tell them like 7 times to stop forcing my child down because they grabbed the mask. The woman grabbed the mask, put it on his face, but it dislodged from the tube. So it's just a mask with no air coming through. Pushing it on his face, shoved his face into a pillow and held him down there. While he's screaming, I'm screaming, get your hands off my son. The oncologist says, get your hand off that little boy. His mom said, you have to stop. The nurse screamed, she said, stop, you have to stop. And nobody stopped until I said, I'm going to sue every single one of you in this room. Hands went up. Just like that. Like it was some magic word to get their hands off my son. But they just continuously held him down and fought with him. So what would you have done if I wasn't in the room? What are you doing when parents aren't in the room to these kids before you sedate them? That's not the sedation experience. When you go down, I've had brain surgery. When you go down for a surgery, you're going to wake up the same way. So if you go down scared, you're going to wake up scared. And it also lowers your chance of survival in surgeries. So I don't understand why St. Jude's, the best hospital for children, has that type of decorum with children. I picked up my son. I looked at all of them. I said, how am I ever going to get him sedated for anything? You guys have ruined it. I put him in his wheelchair. I start wheeling him away. And the nurse starts laughing. It's our job. That's what she said to me. And I'm just, you need to get a job with adults then, because you can't be doing this to kids. I left. We got back to the hotel. While I'm walking into the hotel door, my hotel room phone is ringing. And it's Dr. Popo. I'm so sorry about what happened. Can you come into the office so we can talk about it? I said, tomorrow. Like, we need a night. He's like, we just need to talk before you leave. Like, they already assumed I was going to leave town. And that's what he said in the voicemail. I've got one saved on my phone still of him apologizing for what happened. We went and talked. We agreed that my son would not be seen there anymore because he would not feel comfortable there. And we agreed that they would send me to a different hospital. Little did I know it would be another St. Jude's hospital, just closer to home. And we did not leave against medical advice. I'm going to say that plenty of times in this story. We did not leave against medical advice. We had an agreement that we needed to leave. So being told months down the line that I left against medical advice, it was not the truth. We left because we needed to, because it was better for him to leave. As soon as we left the hospital and checked him out, I went to the Memphis Police Department and pressed charges on the anesthesiologist who held my son down. And the Tennessee District Attorney shot it down. But I tried. She doesn't need to have that job. I also am a private investigator, so I've done a background check on her. She had to pay like $26,000 for running a red light one time. So you can imagine something bigger than that happened, and she had to pay for it. But
Yeah, I was
they
gonna
changed it.
say,
Yeah.
what red light did she run that cost $26,000?
Yeah, lots of DUIs on her record, things like that. And this is the woman who held my child down in St. Jude's Hospital, who has traveled throughout the United States doing anesthesiology for lots of different children.
Wow. I have a question for you, Bailey. Did they, when you first went to St. Jude, did they like make it sound like this was the best hospital for your son and
Oh,
you were gonna
yeah.
get the best care? And
Yep.
so, Gino, I actually sent what she was talking about, the tissue bank. I
Mhm.
put it in the chat. Might want to scroll down.
Yeah, I think
And
it's like a couple paragraphs down, it'll tell you that it can be sold.
and
Right
it
up,
also
go up a little bit. It also says anything they don't use, a little bit more. Anything they don't use has to be returned to St. Jude. So that second paragraph under objectives. Bank tissue can be used for research that leads to new tests or products that can be sold.
and it does state that it's a research hospital.
Mhm.
So they are experimenting on children.
And they have a 10-story building on that campus that medically tests on animals.
Incredible.
Is that one on the website?
It's a different website. They also, St. Jude's now also has a ranch for sex trafficked youth in Nevada,
Oh, do you know what that
which
name is?
I can get that to you. I think it's St. Jude's Ranch, honestly.
Oh, I'm gonna see. All right, you keep
Ba-
talking.
so Bailey, I just want to kind of rewind a little bit here.
Mhm.
We talked earlier, like this is very satanic. Okay.
Yeah.
And if the audience, you know, like you said, if you're believers, you get it. If you're not believers, you won't understand this and you think we're nuts. But
Yep.
another pattern is we see this time and time again. It's like witchcraft. And these people have to broadcast what they're going to do. They have to
Yep.
get your consent, even though it's not really consent, because you don't know what you're signing over. You think it's for the betterment of your health. And it turns out, well, I'll be darned, it's for their betterment. They're going to take advantage of a human being or multiple human beings. So
And I think that's what happened to us.
absolutely, that's there's no doubt. And this is the sad thing, though, as it is with Title IV funding, for instance, we see that there's an incentivization to take children from good parents, right? So the states are handed money through Social Security, through Title IV funding, and it's billions and billions of dollars to the tune of billions every year.
Mhm.
Now, this is no surprise probably to most people watching either, we have another so-called medical facility that's helping children. And I'll be darned, I mean, I see their commercials on TV at least once or twice a week. They got the cute little kids, right? I forgot the little kid's name. He's so cute. He's in his little wheelchair and all this stuff, right? Telling you, oh, please donate, please donate. And they're using these kids, using the most vulnerable among us to, pull on the heartstrings of the viewers to send in money. So I don't know what the percentage of St. Jude's income is from actual donations. I'm sure they get grants and they get other benefits as a nonprofit, all these other things. So it's probably hundreds of millions of dollars if I had to guess annually.
You'd be correct. I've done
Okay.
a ridiculous amount of research on St. Jude's, because I do believe that they have a huge role to play in this medical trafficking. Whether it's St. Jude's there in Memphis or the ones stationed around the United States, they have a huge role that they're playing in this, and that's why the celebrities tell you to donate. Mind you, when the celebrities donate, for the listeners who don't know, they get a tax write-off. So they're doing that to get more money in their pockets and to fund their adrenochrome cycle. But they're asking you to also fund it.
Right.
There are so many different foundations out there for childhood cancer that are really looking for a cure. They've had enough time to find a cure. At this point, it's just torturing kids on something they know does not work.
Yep. Gino, I think I found the St. Jude's Ranch. I put it in the chat.
Now, I've looked into that too, and I've done research on who runs it, and I've got lots of TikTok videos on this subject. Every single thing to do with St. Jude's turns into a rabbit hole where it leads to money laundering and fraud. Every
Yeah.
single one of them.
There it is, the big red donate button right on the front.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
the first thing that pops up.
And
That's-
they've been held, that ranch has been held non-compliant time and time and time again when they're audited, because they will not tell who is there, who is staying with the children. It's like all these set up homes, a gated community with all these furnished homes. It literally sounds like they're sex trafficking these kids out of that gated community. That's a bold assumption for me to make, but they won't tell who's there. They won't tell what food's being eaten. Like, they're non-compliant in everything that they're supposed to do to get the grants that they're getting. But these private investors keep throwing money at it. It is that big. I don't, there's no way to go around it. It is that big what they're doing to our children, and it involves a lot of foster kids or kids who shouldn't have been in foster care to begin with, because they've got a blood type that they want, a bloodline that they want, or it's just a generational curse that's continuously being attacked in a family until someone breaks it. So at this point in St. Jude's, we're done. I'm never going back to Tennessee, to Memphis at this point. We press charges. I get a call that the district attorney is not going to take the charges. So we can't do anything about it. What I did was went all over TikTok and told everybody her name and what she did. Retaliation later, maybe, I don't know. But we went to the next hospital that they wanted. We got the PET scan done, which showed that there was no cancer anywhere but his knee, or whatever was lighting up. It was only in his knee. It wasn't his groin. When Dr. Papo came in to talk to me, when he thought my son was already sedated, he wanted to let me know that they were also going to take biopsy samples from his groin and his hip while he was sedated. Now, a biopsy is like poking a pus-filled infection sac. If he had nothing there, they would have hurt him really bad. And he had already gotten my consent on that piece of paper when he came in there to tell me that. But luckily, that situation happened the way it did, and they didn't stab my son 3 times.
Okay, here's the conspiracy theorist in me. Who's to say Dr. Papo isn't injecting him with something in those sites that would eventually cause cancer? Like, we don't know that. We just trust these doctors because they went to school for 12 years to get there. Like, this is insanity. This is Nazi stuff.
We get to the biopsy. Hey, will you look up Sylvia? I'm going to say his name. I don't care. Gitelis, Stephen Gitelis, Gitles. I want you to pull up his face so I can tell you guys about this surgeon who did what he did to my son. I go for the biopsy. We have to go to Rush Hospital in Chicago. And he tells me what's going to happen. We're going to put this needle in. It's a wide bore needle. We're going to take a sample, pull the needle out. I hadn't done research by then, but I know now that specific type of biopsy causes what's called tumor seeding, where it drops little pieces of the cancer the whole way up, and it can just make it so bad and inflamed and spread it very quickly. And he tells me, I hope it's Ewing sarcoma. As he's walking out of the room to do my son's biopsy, he said, I hope it's Ewing sarcoma. And I looked at my boyfriend like, did this man just tell me he hopes my son has one of the rarest childhood cancers in the world? I hope. And I felt sick to my stomach. I did not want to see him again. Well, he comes up to the waiting room once he's done with the biopsy with this little red bag in his hand with a cup in it and shakes it around in front of me. I'm going to go test this now. I'm going to go test this. He had a piece of my son's body in that cup, just shaking it around in front of me. So this is a whole different hospital, but it's the same type of ick.
See if I found him.
This man, okay, he's the one who said he wishes that my son, or he hopes my son has Ewing sarcoma. But then when he has to come out and tell me that he thinks my son has osteosarcoma instead, he wasn't so pumped. That's why
Wow.
St. Jude's took my son. That's why all this happened from the beginning, is because they had an open trial on Ewing sarcoma. It's worth a lot of money to a doctor and a surgeon and an oncologist right now for someone to have Ewing sarcoma. A lot of money.
Wow. There's
This is,
just so many levels of evil.
yep. And I was living in it with my son, and we get the biopsy. This was December 28th of 2023. That was the day that they said your son does have cancer. They send in an oncologist who I ended up meeting later on. But at the time, it's the first time I've seen this lady. She is from a different country. So her accent is a little bit hard to understand while she's throwing all these words out at me, like doxorubicin, cisplatin, methotrexate. I know them well now, but I had no idea what she was talking about. My son is just diagnosed with cancer. You're throwing all these big words at me and telling me we need to start immediately. My son's waking up from surgery screaming, telling me that you hurt him when you were sedating him. If he's waking up that way, once again, they hurt him when they put him down. I was not allowed in the room. They were told that I'm not allowed in the room because of what happened at St. Jude's. So I was never again allowed in the room when my child was sedated. I don't know if other people are allowed to, or if that was just me, but I was never allowed in the room again. We took him home. We were allowed to, he wasn't admitted. We took him home. And at this point, it's December 28th. So you've got snowy weather. We live in the Midwest. We ended up having a huge blizzard where I could not get him to go anywhere. There was no way I could get in and out. We lived in the middle of nowhere on a gravel road. It's the last road touched if you've got snow. Nobody's coming out there unless one of the local farmers wants to help you out of your property. And at this point, I'm a single mom. Technically, I had a boyfriend, but he was just, we were together for 8 years, and he really didn't step up in the time when we needed him to at all. He didn't want any part in it. So I'm a single mom at this point, trying to figure out how to get my son anywhere. I don't have a car. I don't have a license because of my brain surgery. And my son has cancer. So I'm researching. I'm up all night, every night, reading everything I can. I've actually got this right here. This, I don't know if you guys see how thick this is. This is all printed pages of all the research I did on different supplements and things I could give my son to help cure his cancer. And I got it all. I had it all mailed to me, and I started everything. And I got him his medical cannabis card. He started on that, and I started him on curcumin and a couple other things that I can't say on the internet, but they're healthy, holistic, and legal ways of treating different things. And 25 days after his diagnosis, well, I guess it'd be 24 days is when they showed up. 24 days after his diagnosis, DCFS, which is Illinois CPS, showed up at my house. But this wasn't until after the deputy sheriff called me on Facebook to find me. So they had already utilized the deputy sheriff from the sheriff's department to find me after the investigator had showed up to 3 of my previous addresses and tried to call multiple phones but couldn't find me. That was by design. They have followed me my entire life trying to take my kids. Of course, I'm not going to be easily found. That was the plan.
Were there any court appointed, like our court warrants for that,
Nope.
or any bench warrants, or nothing? Just
There was
they were
nothing.
searching for you, and they were going to get you one way or another.
Yep, I've never been in trouble before. Like throughout all this, I have an absolute clean record. The only thing that ever came up on my record is a domestic from me being assaulted and the restraining order being broken because I was assaulted twice, and they had to charge us both to get me to move out of state to get away from it. So they know, like, I've never broken any laws or anything like that. So they came looking for me, couldn't find me. I get a phone call on Facebook from a deputy sheriff. I need you to call me. And I knew, like, my intuition told me they're coming. Like, I knew about medical kidnapping. I'd heard about it before. I'd heard about kids with cancer specifically being targets for CPS. So maybe I felt like I spoke it into existence. But as soon as this cop had messaged me, I knew what he wanted from me. And so I called him, and I'm like, I've got nothing to hide. Here's my address. Come out here. So CPS, the first time they showed up was with one investigator and a deputy sheriff at my house. First time ever meeting me. So no pressure. We're not trying to scare you. Don't worry. You're a woman out in the middle of nowhere. We're going to send 2 men to your house. There's women who work for CPS. So why was I only being dealt men the entire time, first off? I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder from domestic violence. Sending weird men to my house is probably not the best idea. So the man tells me, you need to have this doctor's appointment tomorrow with Mr. Gatellis, the one that we pulled up on the screen. And it was just like an over the Zoom call type of appointment so we could discuss different surgical options. At this point, the only option they'd given me is endoprosthesis, which is an internal prosthetic that is 3D printed, but it hasn't even been in the United States for 5 years. And there's not enough efficacy studies to show that it would be still good in 20 years. And my son's 9 at this point. I was 27 or 28 at this point, but to know that by my age, he might not have a functioning leg because of deterioration of the prosthesis, they just don't know what will happen to it. So I felt really uncomfortable about it, and I didn't want them to do that. He is my most rambunctious child. He is a daredevil. He does everything he can possibly do to get hurt. And if a child has that type of prosthesis and they fall or trip, it doesn't break the prosthesis, it breaks the bone it's attached to. At that point, they'd have to do a full amputation. So I knew all of this stuff was coming in his future. And I was like, how can we avoid surgery? What can we do to avoid them cutting off his leg? And nobody had ever mentioned to me like full amputation. That had never been brought up. But that day, the CPS guy told me, your son needs his leg amputated or he's going to die. And I said, where did you get that information? And I start crying and hyperventilating. I'm like, who told you that? Nobody's told me that. What do you mean? And he just said, well, you need to make sure you have that doctor's appointment tomorrow. Make sure you don't miss it. We'll be following up with you. I had the appointment. I did everything I was told to do. I listened to his options on surgery. He said, I want to make sure that you know I never brought up amputation until just now. I've never brought this up before. So it was just really weird to me. I don't know if the surgeon was involved in the CPS call, or if it was St. Jude's involved in the CPS call, or everybody colluded together to call on me. But it was very weird the way that they were talking about me and talking to other people. And kind of just like, just want to make sure you don't think that I said he needed an amputation. Okay, no, because the CPS worker told me he did. Who told the CPS worker that? Nobody. He made it up. So I'm in full panic at this point. I'm thinking, what do I do? Like, I've made appointments for him in Michigan to see a holistic doctor. I wanted to get him into the University of Iowa because I'd grown up in the University of Iowa, and I had a cousin who had went through cancer treatment there. So I thought maybe this hospital will be better. I don't like St. Jude's. I don't like how they're pushing me from one to the next, just keeping me in their little circle. I wanted to get out of the state and do it somewhere else. That wasn't okay with them. As soon as they found out I wanted to take him out of state and get a second opinion, 25 days after diagnosis, they showed up to take him. They had no warrant. And for 7.5 hours, I had deputies and CPS workers all over my property, walking around my house, screaming at me that I'm killing my kid. And I was there by myself with my 3 children and my dogs. We live, again, out in the middle of nowhere. The closest neighbor is miles away. And they're screaming at me that I'm killing my son. The little words are, Bailey, you're killing your kid. You're killing your kid, screaming at me through the windows of my home. And I did lie. I did say I'm not home. I'm in Michigan, which I was planning on going to an appointment. But I was scared. You've got a whole bunch of men outside my house now, multiple cars, lights. And I don't know if you guys have guns. I don't know what. I know you're here to take my son. I know that much. So I hid up in my bedroom with my 3 kids for 7.5 hours until my ex let the cops into the house because their feet were wet. Which, I am a Christian and I love everybody, but I don't care about their dang wet feet. They were there to take my son. They were there to take away all of my rights and my liberty interest that was given to me by God. They were there to take it from me. No questions asked. So I don't care about their wet feet. But he had coaxed me to come outside and talk to them. And I have video footage of me talking to one of the cops, begging him, please let me go to Iowa City. I'll take him right now and admit him in Iowa City Hospital. Don't let this hospital take my kid. The cop said, I'm just waiting to see if we get a warrant. So they stayed on my property for 7.5 hours, no warrant. Finally, somebody signed a warrant and they came and took my son. and it was 11 o'clock at night before they put him in the ambulance.
So
And
where did they take him?
the cop said that I could go with him, so we just took him to the local hospital where he'd first had his x-ray. But as soon as we get there, it's like they already knew the situation and they already knew we were coming. Because they were, the way that the nurses and everyone were treating me, it was like I was a monster. Drew needed to get a blood draw, which I knew was going to freak him out. So I held him, and they freaked out on me and tried to take me out of the room like I was the reason he was scared. Like I'm abusive to him. He's terrified because you just took him out of his house in the middle of the night. He had to leave his brothers and his pets behind. And now you're screaming at his mom to leave. Like, I can't imagine what my son's brain went through in all this, but I know what it did to me. The deputy who I'd called, I said, "What's going on? They're trying to kick me out of the room." And he said, "They're not going to kick you out of the hospital. If they try to, call me." Okay, cool. But the next morning, they transferred him to a different hospital. So where there'd be no help for me, and we were moved to Peoria, which was 3.5 hours away from our home, to a St. Jude's hospital. So immediately he's put in the care of St. Jude's. And I'm there for 2 or 3 days with him while, I mean, they're trying to get him stable at this point because his electrolytes and everything are all off. We were in our room for 7.5 hours without eating or drinking. So his labs were all off when they got him. We're terrified. Stress causes your body to do some crazy things, including clot your blood. Like, it can do some crazy things to the body, and they didn't figure in the amount of stress that they had just put on him into his blood work and said it was all my fault. I did all of this to him. I made him so sick. And they got emergency custody of my son within 72 hours of taking him from me. At that point, they could make any medical decision they wanted for him. It takes 72 hours to take away everything from you.
I mean, that seems like the goal right from the get-go. That's what they really wanted.
Yep. And for like this specific case, there's 2 different types of lawyers that work for CPS. You've got your TPR lawyers, the ones who are trying to terminate parental rights. And then you've got your regular case lawyers. They immediately sent the TPR lawyer at me. Immediately. They wanted my child from the minute he was born. They just finally had the opportunity to take him. I mean, their petition, you have to write out a petition to get your child taken from you, to present it to the court to get a warrant. Their petition said that my son had been diagnosed 8 weeks prior to them taking him, which is not true. It was barely even 4 weeks. But so they lied on every single different bullet point of the petition to take my child. We have that 72-hour hearing, and I wasn't provided with a lawyer. When I asked to have one, they said, "We don't have one right now, and we have to have this hearing." Like, they consistently violated my rights all the way through that first hearing. And there shouldn't even been a second hearing. When I asked for a lawyer, you shouldn't say you can have one on the next hearing. This was all lies, and I had never even been presented with a petition because they mailed it to my house after taking me to Peoria in an ambulance with my son. So how was I supposed to be at home to get that mail? Like, nobody emailed it to me. I had no idea what was being accused of me. They didn't read it out loud to me to tell me what it was. They completely railroaded me, hid me off. Like, they let me go to the hospital with him, but as soon as they got that emergency custody, they kicked me out of the hospital. So now at this point, you've got a 9-year-old little boy who's been diagnosed with cancer, sitting in a hospital room 3.5 hours from everyone he loves by himself. And they fast-tracked started him on chemotherapy. And we were denied a second opinion. We never got to find out.
Was anyone with him at all that he knew?
No.
That's awful.
And CPS didn't even send anybody to sit with him. Like,
they, and you know what? They're supposed to. They're supposed to have a sitter with them at all times.
From the beginning, my best friend said, "I will take him. I'll be his foster parent." And CPS said, "No, you're too aggressive." Well, because they were all laughing at me outside of the trial or outside of the courthouse one day. They were all sitting around laughing. And she looked at them and she said, "Is this really funny to you? It's a 9-year-old boy with cancer." So they said she was too aggressive to be the foster mom. And they wouldn't let her. So they just left him alone. We've got someone willing to drop everything to be there if I can't be, and you won't let her. And now he's got to be alone. So he spent 2.5 months in that hospital, and I was only allowed to see him 4 hours twice a week. So he's there by himself for 4 hours twice a week. I do know that the head guardian of DCFS came to visit him multiple times. This is the man in charge of all the kids in DCFS and signing those medical consents. He went to go see him. He had very big special interest in my case.
I bet he did.
He has been with his boyfriend slash husband for 23 years and they have a Yorkie. And he makes all the signatures for every single medical test, every single surgery for every child in Illinois DCFS care. Meaning he signed the signature to give my son a PICC line. He signed the signature to put a port in my son's chest. When they took my son back to get in his PICC line, I got to walk him down. He got sedated. I went up to the cafeteria, got him some snacks, and I went to the gift shop and got him some toys and some pillows and set everything up in his bed. And I just sat in his bed crying, waiting. Like, this was the first, other than the biopsy, this is the first time he's been sedated. He's been taken from me. Like, this is just really scary. They come in the room. One of the nurses comes in the room and said, "There's two ladies here who need to speak to you." And I said, "Okay, send them in." And it was two DCFS workers from Peoria who then told me that I wasn't allowed to be at the hospital anymore and I'm on supervised visits only and I need to leave. And I started crying. I said, "What do you mean? He's sedated right now. Don't make him wake up and come up to here and I'm not here, that he's going to think I left him." It's exactly what they did. They kicked me out of the hospital, bawling my eyes out with a suitcase it had just snowed, but then it's raining. So you got that slush everywhere. It's slushy. I'm pulling a suitcase, crying through downtown Peoria, which is extremely dangerous, especially I'm 5'2". And at the time I was probably like 85 pounds because I was so stressed out, crying, walking through the streets of Peoria. I don't have a support system. I was a foster kid.
What's their names? You want to call them out?
I don't, because one of them was amazing and I don't know the name of the other one. I know that sounds crazy, but after that, they kicked me out. I'm walking through the streets. I met up with one of my TikTok friends that I'd never met before, but I called her. I said, "I'm in Peoria." They kicked me out of the hospital. She picked me up and we went to her house until one of my friends could come get me from home. 3.5 hours away from my house. They just threw me out. I rode up in an ambulance. They just threw me out. You have to leave or you're trespassed from the hospital. And if you're trespassed from the hospital, you can't come back. So knowing if I don't willingly walk out of these doors, I can never come back. I don't know when you're going to give me my son back. So I walked out of there, heartbroken, ran into a homeless man. I was on the phone with one of my best friends from school and I was like, "I need to go right now. This homeless man needs me." And I hung up. And that just shows kind of my state of mind at the time. But I walked up to him and he started talking to me about God. And I knew that God had sent him to me in that moment to get me out of the rain, to get one of my friends to get a hold of me so I could, instead of just like walking in a straight panic, I don't know what to do. I want to be in that room. I don't want him to wake up by himself. But he did. Again, for his port surgery, they kicked me out. They came in early during our 4-hour visit to put him under again.
This goes along with the whole narrative, though. I mean, to
absolutely.
keep him in fear
Every time.
to get the adrenaline. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Every single time they just did something to scare him. And this was the first hospital, St. Jude's. Again, it is OSF in Peoria, Illinois. It's a St. Jude's affiliate. They got St. Jude's on the wall right there too. He only dealt with the St. Jude's doctors, not the ones for OSF. St. Jude's consistently terrorized my child every time they wanted to sedate him or take blood from him. All of a sudden, things start looking a little bit better in court. Like the judge is kind of thinking, well, I said that they didn't put out the second opinion referrals that I asked for. And the judge said, if I find out that these second opinion referrals didn't get put out, we're going to have a serious problem. I didn't have a lawyer yet, so I couldn't like prove it right then. And I didn't know my rights to do so. Now I could probably represent myself, but not as well as my lawyer did. He was amazing. But basically the judge was seeing something was going up and something was not right. And all of a sudden they moved my child to Chicago. They took him 5.5 hours away from my house. Once the judge was like starting to question them, they took him even further away. And the day that they transported him, he was on chemotherapy, had staph infection and influenza B. And they decided to move him another 2.5 hours further away from home, under the guise of Steve Gatellis, the white-haired doctor, needs to see him to see if we can still save the leg. We need to see if we can still save the leg, he says. It had never been changed. Like nothing had changed to the point where they wouldn't be able to save the leg because they really wanted to do that endoprosthesis limb salvage surgery because it's new here and there's a big trial going on for it. And I did not want that. And I'd done research on my own throughout this time to get him the surgery he ended up being forced into having, anyways. It is the better option. It's just not physically pleasing to people to see it. It was some completely crappy reason that they needed to transfer him up when he was super sick like that, but they did it anyways. The judge finds out, and the judge says supervised visits are over. Mom stays with him. And I thank God for that moment where the judge said, no, you can go with him now. So it'd been.
Which court system was that? That was in the juvenile court? Family court? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
administrative law. He said, because my lawyer said, well, they knew prior to our last hearing that they were going to move him, and they didn't tell the mom, they didn't tell the judge, they didn't tell anybody. It was right after a hearing, they picked him up and moved him. Right after they heard the judge standing up for me a little bit, they picked him up and moved him. When the judge heard that they moved him, he said, Mom can be there full time. So I basically moved into Chicago Hospital with my son. And at this point, the only time he'd been outside since he was taken was for that ride to the hospital in an ambulance. He had not been allowed to go get fresh air or anything. This is a little boy, again, he's on chemotherapy treatment. One of the harshest chemotherapy regimens in the entire world is for osteosarcoma. It's literally mustard gas. And some of the side effects can start 20 years after administration of the drugs. All I wanted to do is make sure my son didn't die and figure out ways that we could make sure the chemo got out of his body as soon as possible, that healthy cells weren't affected, and that the cancer cells would die. You can do that with baking soda. You can do that with cannabis. You can do that with curcumin. You can do that with turmeric. There's so many things that can protect your good cells during chemotherapy. Or if you just teach people properly that if you have an acidic chemotherapy, you need to alkalize your body with bicarbonate water, with broccoli, cucumbers. If you just change the way you're eating during chemotherapy, you've got a higher survival rate. So I'd never said no to the chemotherapy for my child. I just wanted a doctor who would talk to me and we could have open discussion about, hey, I also want to do this to make sure he's okay. But every time I would present to the doctors, hey, here's this study from the NIH about, I don't know, vitamin C and its benefits on killing osteosarcoma specific cells. Oh, that won't work. It's only done in vivo and in vitro and in rats. I'm like, because you guys refuse to take this study here and put it on a human because you know it's going to work, and you can't patent vitamin C. You can't patent cannabis. Well, they can, and they did. This is the entire document of the patent for phytocannabinoids in the treatment of cancer. It's already been patented that cannabis kills cancer. Between my son's PET scans that he had done, 25 days after he was taken, they did another PET scan. The first scan said the tumor in his knee was a 10.1 severity. They believe anything over a 5 could spread and metastasize. So they want it under a 5 to not think that it's going to spread. When they took my son, it was an 8.6. 25 days after I got that diagnosis, he was an 8.6 instead of a 10.1. So was it cancer or not? And if it was, I was curing it. And they knew that because I was very public about what I was doing.
They can't have that.
The first child who gets through cancer without chemotherapy bankrupts a very, very dark project they have going on. But I just want to, again, he went from a 10.1 to an 8.6, and they charged me with medical neglect. And the paperwork says maybe due in part to necrosis. Do you know what they call very successful chemotherapy? 100% necrosis. So we were getting there. But then after that PET scan, they put him through 2 pretty quickly after they took him. They refused to do another PET scan when it came to surgery time. And I said, can we please just do a PET scan and see what's in there, see if there's any cancer left? Well, that's only allowed on an outpatient basis, and he's inpatient. He's being held hostage inpatient. Insurance won't pay for it. I said, can we please just go home? Like, We won't even leave. Just check him out. I'll sit in the parking lot and we'll come in, we'll do the scan, and you can check him back in. I don't care. Just get this scan. They refused. When they cut off my child's leg, there was no cancer found in it. And for the rest of his life, he has half a
Can
leg.
you say that again?
Yeah. When they cut off my child's leg, there was no cancer found in it. And I begged for a second opinion. I begged for a PET scan to save his leg. Bones can regenerate anyways. So if there was something there, it can be healed. They can do even bone cementing where they just inject basically hyperpressed calcium that grows into your bones and it fills in the holes of your bones for people with like osteoporosis, which I have. I know bones can heal. But they refused, and they took half my child's leg. Where do you think it went? You know, because they don't actually incinerate those things. But since I no longer had custody of my child at that point, those consent forms that I refused to sign at St. Jude's were signed. My son's leg sits in the T bank still.
So the caseworker signed it after they took custody, right?
David Fox did.
And who is David Fox?
David Fox is the guardian administrator for Illinois DCFS. He signs all medical consents.
Wow.
And I've taken his name and my transcripts and all of my information to Illinois Congress, and they are doing what they need to with it. If they don't do what they
What's
need
his
to, then I
job
have to keep
title?
pushing. He's the guardian administrator of Illinois DCFS. If you look him up, you'd have to look up David L. Fox, and you will find barely anything about him. He has paid someone to wipe everything off the internet. And he's a
Illinois?
lawyer. Yep. He's a lawyer from New York. And he's in charge of all medical consents for children. And he was very interested in my case, showed up to many of my court hearings and personally to see my child in his hospital room by himself.
Oh, let's see what this is, Gino.
Very uncomfortable.
The colluding and coordination between them is just off the charts.
It was brought up in court, like they were questioning between him and the surgeon. Well, how did you figure out this information? Do you record those phone calls? Because every phone call you have with mother is documented. So why don't you have documented phone calls with the caseworkers? Because they were hiding every conversation that they had with DCFS about my child. David is going to be over to the right.
Can't move it. How come I can't move it?
Yeah, he's the second one down in that one right there. He's a very tall man, very intimidating. He was definitely the Goliath that we had to face. He showed up at the hospital after supervised visits were ended. So I was with my child full time. He showed up at the hospital with the social worker and said, I needed to leave the room so they could talk to Drew by themselves. And this is before they took Drew's leg. And I said, no, I don't have to leave the room. You can't make me leave the room. And he's like, you need to leave the room so we can talk privately. And so I called my lawyer and I have my lawyer in my ear. And he's like, well, ask him what statute gives him the authority to do so. And I asked him, he said, I'm David Fox. I'm Illinois DCFS guardian. I can do this. Like basically just throwing his title out there and throwing himself out there. I can do this if I want to. You do not have those rights. And my lawyer heard the entire phone call. We took that to court too about it. And that was when the guardian ad litem. So my son's lawyer really ripped him a new butthole. I don't know what else to say with it. But he said, you're not allowed to speak with my client again without me present. And this is when the court started realizing something dark is going on and it's not mom's fault. But we had a court hearing where the state's attorney, the guardian ad litem, and my lawyer wrote a joint motion to vacate temporary custody from the state. So they were trying to give me my son back before surgery. And the judge says he needs that surgery and there's no one else that can do it. Denied. Cut off his leg, gave him back to me the next hearing. Very transactional. very transactional. It's
How
something
long was the Nets tearing after that?
less than a month.
Wow.
They took his leg on May 14th, and June 11th is when I got him back. So we'd just been let home to the hospital. They let us go home. His birthday was June 1st, so they let us go home right before his birthday. But at that point, here's the kicker. At that point, my best friend who said she'd be the foster mom, well, she was just fit to do it then, and they fast-tracked that process, and she was the foster mom for a whole 14 days before I got my son back. But they left him alone all that time. They left him alone in the hospital, refusing because she was too aggressive. But then all of a sudden, she's the best home for him, and I got to live there with him. Like, it was so weird. It was not like a normal custody case. What other foster care situation do you know where the alleged abuser then gets to live with the foster mom?
Right.
And they never came
And
after my other two kids, which the judge pointed out, you don't think she's a bad mom because you're not investigating the other two kids. This is all about the medical aspect of it. So the whole situation that happened with my son seems like somebody paid for my son's limb and they did whatever they could to get it. And I know that sounds absolutely bonkers, but where's my son's leg and why couldn't I take it home and bury it? Where are the two pieces of my brain that were taken out during brain surgery? Like, why aren't we allowed to have this? What are you doing with it? Medical research? But you're selling them. It's just I don't know, what happened to him just wraps my head so much that I can't do anything now but push forward to try to help other kids because I know what's happening to others. There's no way that this was just my family. And I do want to put out, he's 100% cancer free and has been since before they took his leg. Chemotherapy treatment was completed, and we'd go on our Make-A-Wish trip next week. So he's doing amazing. I'll see if I can get him to come out here and say hi to everybody. But that's what happened to my son and I in 2023 and 2024. And now, taking that information, I've been to Washington DC. I've spoken with Congress. I've spoken with the Department of Justice. I've spoken with White House correspondents. Spoken with lots of news reporters. I recently accepted a position with You Are the Power, Spike Cohen's nonprofit. And I won't be saying what it is yet until they post it, but I'm very excited to be able to help the state of Illinois in whatever way I can because I beat them. And at the end of the day, I just think it'd be really great for them to see my name pop up somewhere talking about what they did.
oh yeah, we love You Are the Power. I work with Jennifer and Gretchen and Ryan and Grant. And I think
Excuse me.
Diana's coming on and Carrie. I think they have
Yes.
I think they have quite a few people coming on.
I'm going to go switch this kitten for Drew. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've heard it all, like it just so disturbing.
It's insane. I mean, these people are so evil, and you literally think that there's not another level of evil, and whoa, there is.
You want to say
Hi,
hi?
Drew.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going, buddy?
Banana. Do you have anything you
Banana.
want to say to the viewers? There's lots of people watching. We just told your story. Nope.
He's like, I'm out. I don't blame
See ya.
you.
They've got it on so many different apps right now. I don't know how many people are watching.
Yeah, we just got, I think we're going to have to redo the X thing with John. Maybe we'll do a replay. Something was going on his end, so it wasn't playing on X. So I think what we're going to do, Bailey, is we're going to replay this tonight. I'm going to, hopefully I'll get with John and then I can replay it tonight and we'll get an audience later on and we can, if you want to watch it then, you can watch it then too.
Probably. I think that'd be cool. I always watch them back to see if I said anything stupid. But I do have a stutter sometimes because I have part of my brain is missing. And I think they thought that I'd be a really easy target because of my medical history. But my body has been parted out so many times by the same system that just did it to my child. I mean, I've had so many unnecessary surgeries where pieces of my body were taken.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because before the show started, we were talking about how this is kind of generational. I mean,
Yeah,
we this is another one of those patterns that we've seen where it does seem like they, for whatever reason, if it's a blood type or some kind of personality trait that they want, like they go after it. It's very cultish.
I was doing some research on this. One of the mothers I went to Washington DC with, she received a gag order from England while we were up there because her child is owned by the crown and living in Florida.
I was just gonna say the crown, man. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
this is
insane.
it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's to the point where my computers have been hacked, my cell phone's been hacked. There's been attempts on breaking into my home. Like it's not it's not light material that we're working on when we go to Washington DC and expose what's happening here. And I say these things and I don't look like I'm upset about what's happened, but you guys have to understand, and to the listeners, you have to understand that I've told this story so many times and I'm not scared anymore. I'm mad and it's a righteous anger. And I now have the power and the voice that they took from me when they gag ordered me during court. I can now stand up for these families who can't stand up for themselves. And I was the wrong mom to mess with because I know what they're doing and I can see them for what they're doing. And the caseworker, even at the end, told me, I feel like God's been in this situation. I feel like God's done something. And I just looked at him and I said, yep, but in my head, and I said, touch not my anointed. I hope you know what you've done. I even told them in the courtroom, I'd made a TikTok that said they were going to have to answer to God for what they did. And the judge or the CPS lawyer said, did you make a TikTok saying that we have to answer to God for what we did? And I said, yes, ma'am, I did. And I've got to answer to God for lying to you and saying that I wasn't home too. But I think for sure my son is going to be brought up in your conversation with God. You lied to have my child, his body parts removed. I don't know if any of the viewers saw my son when he was in here, but they took a good portion of his leg, moved his calf up, and attached it backwards. It's called a rotation plasty. And it looks scary. And the surgeon said, you don't want that because the cosmesis of it, people are going to think he looks weird. I don't care how he looks. This little leg is indestructible. He could wear his prosthetic and run. He could trip and fall down. He could ride his dirt bike, and he's not going to break the prosthetic and he's not going to break his leg. It was the right decision for my son. If we were forced into a surgery, it was the only decision for him. The other one, his limitations would be golfing and walking. Why are we giving a surgery that limits a child that much to a 9-year-old? I feel like that's a surgery for old men who want to golf, not for 9-year-old boys. It's an easy way to end up having to go back for another surgery and another surgery. And I've known way too many parents who did have to go back and get the surgery fixed because they fell or the body rejected the prosthetic. There's so much they don't know and they kind of just centralize it. But with the woman from England, her son was taken and he's about to get a tonsillectomy. And she's like, I don't know why they're doing this. Well, my little brain starts researching. The ACLU documented that there's been an increasing rise in tonsillectomies, routine tonsillectomies is what it writes with the little quotations, on Black, neurodivergent, and Native American foster children. Well, I'm Native American. I'm a Cherokee. My son's a Cherokee. A lot of people don't know that about me. It does put a target on your back when you are a Native American as well. We believe in our culture that when your tonsils swell, that means you're leveling up spiritually. And so doctors, they then remove the tonsils and adenoids when they start to swell. I saw a study from the 1940s in Germany where they were feeding tonsils and adenoids to waterfowl because they don't have any. So they were taking tonsils and adenoids from mammals and feeding them to the waterfowl to see what would happen. This is Germany. You know, they did some really crazy stuff back then. But they realized that the younger the mammal, the more the pineal gland would enhance in the body of that duck. So they noticed when they ingest tonsils of a young mammal, the pineal gland would enhance.
Third eye.
And I'll leave that where it's at. Why are they taking so many kids' tonsils and what are they doing with them? And the study at the end of it says may be interesting for the medical field. Nothing was ever done after that, allegedly. So there is, and the ACLU has documented that this is happening to Native, Black, and neurodivergent foster children.
We live in one evil world.
Absolutely. And I
You think it-
couldn't even look at her and tell her that they're going to organ traffic her son. It's not because he's got strep throat. When you take the tonsils and the adenoids away, it makes it worse for you. They tell you that it's going to be better, but that's what collects the infection so it doesn't spread into your body. And they've taken mine. My tonsils and adenoids are gone. My kids will always have theirs. I will fight anybody that tries to take them. No problems. But that's another part where they pieced out when I was a kid. They pieced out parts of my body. It didn't happen to my brother and sister, just me, because of my blood type. I do believe that there's a blood type, and I'm neurodivergent and Native American. So I think that there is a really dark theme, because it is shown consistently that children that are being abused are left in those situations. They die in those situations, and then it's put in the paper that so-and-so CPS already had 15 calls on this family and did nothing. And then CPS gets trashed for it. They purposely leave these kids because they generate wealth on trauma. If they're not going to get those kids, but they'll get those kids' kids. They know that'll happen. Or at least they'll try to. I mean, in my history, I've now had, I think it's 8 or 9 CPS calls made on me. By medical professionals, usually. It's like, when I took the information to the DOJ, they're also receiving my son's Social Security disability still, and have been for over a year. So they're taking children that are disabled, they're getting funds through Medicaid, they're getting funds through federal funds, and they're also taking their Social Security disability. I learned from another foster mom in the area that she never gets the disability checks for her child. The system gets it. They call the child to see what the child wants, and they buy the child what it needs. No one ever reached out to my son. How many other institutionalized children in Illinois are having their funds robbed by Illinois DCFS? There's 23,000 Illinois foster children on psychotropic drugs right now. They have to put out this report every year, and they're just sedating and over medicating children, getting them on benefits. I was really hoping with Doge that they would have seen like the connection between Social Security and Medicaid and all the funding that's going into foster care, but they haven't talked about it. So I feel like they don't care. It's such a substantial number.
I was hoping the same thing, Bailey, because that's the one thing that I noticed was the psychotropic medication that they were putting the children on.
Yeah.
And it's insane. I mean,
some states don't even have to tell you how many.
Medication. Yeah.
I was also reading that Florida, I believe, they have to tell you what drugs it is, but they don't tell you how many. But one of the drugs available is an anti-dementia medication. Why are they giving that to a child? And I can answer that too, because I met an Epstein victim, or a woman who was trafficked by Epstein's ilk. She had met a lot of big name people. She was in DC with me last time I was there. What they did to her is they sold her to a couple in New York when she was a baby, and that couple pretty much pimped her out her whole life. But they medically tested on her. They would get her pregnant, sedate her, take the baby, and tell her she miscarried multiple times. And she said the last time that they did it, she screamed, "You're not going to make me forget it this time." This is what they do. They torture these kids, and then they literally erase their mind. And it is that dark. I know it sounds crazy, but if I would have lost my son, I can't imagine what would have happened to him if he was in the system. Because they do mind games with these kids. They do MK Ultra on these kids, especially the ones that they're trafficking heavily. Medical trafficking is different. They'll just piece a kid apart until there's nothing left of them to make money. But the sex trafficking, which is why I got involved in the first place, they're just hurting kids over and over and over again until there's nothing left of them in a different way. But the part that bothers me is the fact that they're getting sex trafficked kids pregnant to have undocumented children to also put into their sex trafficking trade. And that's how they continue. It's just the whole situation and what's happening in foster care as a foster kid is disgusting to me. And the fact that people think that foster care is all good and rainbows, and it's really not. It's not good for the kids. And maybe instead of judging the parents that you see who are involved in court cases like that, maybe you should take a closer look at it and see if maybe the courts are lying, manipulating, and trying to steal their child from them. Don't ostracize them and throw them to the side unless there's physical evidence of abuse. And even in cases like in Georgia with Ehlers-Danlos, they're going to call that abuse when it's really not, and they're taking medically fragile children.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the whole reason I came out, Bailey, was because I worked in the foster system for 5 years and I was appalled at what I saw. Like I could not believe what I was witnessing. And I was like, the American people don't know. They like it's a different world. And it's almost like you're living in two different realms, like a really dark realm. And then because I would get to leave that place and I would go into another realm, it was just, that's how it felt. It was so off. And I was like, it's not safe for children. It's just not safe for children at all. But it's been a very hard battle for people to understand because we've been so brainwashed, and people, it's hard for them to believe because it's easier for them not to believe because then they wouldn't have to do anything. But if they believe you, then they're going to have to do something, right? And people are just so self-absorbed and so into their own little world that it's hard to even get them to like come out of it for 30 seconds,
Right. I feel like it's a lot of ego too.
Yes.
But God told us if we followed him, the world wasn't going to like us. So you kind of have to abandon that part where you just need everybody's validation because you don't. And I actually, thinking of that, I want to throw this in. About 3 weeks before my son was diagnosed with cancer, I believe I had a prophetic dream from God. And I had posted about it before my son was diagnosed. So, like, it's not something I'd made up. I posted about it. I was like, guys, I just dreamed this. It's so weird. I was sitting in my yard and I saw a big circle in the sky. It was coming closer and closer. And I realized it's a missile. And it landed in my property just on the ground, like a 10-foot long missile laying on the ground. And I looked down at it and said, oh my gosh, I need to go get my kids and get out of here. So I ran inside the house, grabbed the kids, came outside, and there was hundreds of people in my yard having a party. And the missile was still there. And I'm running around the yard telling everybody, you need to go, you need to go. I'm trying to warn everybody of the trouble that's coming. And in my time of doing that, I look at the skyline and I can see like bomber planes and like just absolute war going on all around me in the different towns around our farmhouse. I saw all this crazy stuff happening. I somehow picked up a phone to call the cops. I don't know, to tell them there was a missile in my yard. And as soon as I turned around, the missile blew up and my oldest son was holding Drew's dead body when I turned around. And in my mind, I was like, God just told me, do not pay attention to what they say. Focus on Drew. Don't listen to them or your son's going to die. Focus on Drew. And that really pushed me to be like, I need to start this holistic treatment right now. They're going to kill him. And I think the holistic treatment I gave him before he started really helped him a lot because the first 3 doses of chemotherapy cleared out of his body so fast that they thought it wasn't even therapeutic. And they said, we don't know how he does this. Well, then he was struggling really bad when I couldn't be there to help him for the next couple, I don't know, 6 or 7 doses of chemo when I couldn't be there. But when I moved in with him, I made sure that he had all the foods and drinks and stuff that he needed. And he was clearing super fast again. And I'm teaching the nurses, look at this Gatorade, alkaline Gatorade water. And they're like, okay, well, look at the ingredients. It's the same stuff you're putting into his veins. I'm just having him drink it to flush it faster. We need to coat the organs inside and out. So we need to do it like this. I'm hoping that they take the information that I taught them and give it to other cancer patients. Let the moms know you can help your child survive this, because it's something so simple as that. that could save so many lives in that hospital. You know, if it's that easy to cancel out a chemotherapy's damage in the body, why aren't we teaching parents how to do this? Why can't I?
Right.
Why
It's a-
couldn't I go forward and say, hey, do you want to know how I got my son's leg from a 10.1 to an 8.6? Doctors, would you like to have a conversation? No, because protocol, protocol, protocol. We have to have the standard of care, the gold standard of care. You have to have the surgery. Everything is so unnecessary because they're going off of, just like vaccines, they're going off of it's right for everyone. But it's not. Not everyone
It's
can handle that.
it's always about money.
Chemotherapy
Always.
kills 97% of healthy people.
It's
And I mean, you can't tell when someone has cancer unless they're on chemotherapy. Unless they're on radiation and chemotherapy, you really can't tell if someone's got cancer. It's the medications that make it so much worse and make your body so weak. If the medications are required, if that's something you have to do, then we should also be teaching holistic care side by side. That's all I wanted. That's not medical neglect. I just wanted to make sure my son survived. And I looked at the judge and I said, there's nobody in this room who's going to care more if my son dies than me. It's just another Tuesday for you guys. This is my everything. This is my little boy. And I feel like a lot of parents feel that way, especially in these medical situations. And then you've got doctors lying under oath saying this is the only possible way this could happen. We've got such a messed up system that the only thing I can think to do to change it is to get really loud and start writing bills in Congress. I don't know what else we can do, but putting the word out there, letting people know how evil the system really is, and how instead of donating blindly to organizations because other people are doing it, use your money in a better way. Donate to cause specific, like osteosarcoma specific foundations, or I don't know, leukemia specific foundations. Don't just donate to a big hospital that promises that they found the cure or they're going to find the cure. They've had enough time to find the cure, and us mama bears out there are finding it a lot quicker. And you're taking our kids from us when we try to.
the fact that they already know there's a cure and they hide it is evil enough. And then to perpetrate it on children and pull at the heartstrings of people while they're watching television and see a little boy, a cute little boy in a wheelchair, saying, "Oh, we really need your donations. You know, this is, look what it's done for me." And yet you don't know the hospital maimed him, literally maimed him. Instead
Yep.
of going with something that was proven, that was working, shrinking the tumor,
Yep.
instead, no, we're going to go with traditional medicine because traditional medicine makes a ton of money per
It
patient.
really does. I really just we need people. I don't want to say we need people to have less faith in the medical system, but we need more people who know about holistic care in our medical system. They need to know that there's root cause things. There's problems, that parasites that start all of this, you know? And it's such an easy way to get rid of them, but anytime someone tries to talk about it, they're censored online or ostracized, or heaven forbid they come and take your kid.
For
Well,
a
thank God
reason.
there's
They don't want us.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Thank God there's people like you, Bailey. I mean, that are speaking up. And I know it's your child, and this is the one thing I've seen too is so many parents become advocates. They're like, I cannot let this happen to another child. And I think that's the amazing spirit that we have in us, especially as a believer in Jesus Christ. Like when we have that living in us, like I can't wake up in the morning and just turn a blind eye to this now that I know what's going on. Like there's
I
no
don't know
way.
how
Like
people do.
I like it's impossible. And it doesn't mean you have to be like involved extensively. We're all called to different things, of course. We all
Right.
have different gifts and but all of us can bring awareness to something. We can all bring awareness to a subject, either, liking, sharing, whatever you got to do, like to just let
Right.
other people know about it. But that has been, I think, for me anyway, I can't speak for Sylvia, but um, the lack of interest in what's happening to American children. And this isn't just specifically America. This is going on all over the world. I mean, obviously we live here, so we're focused more here, but it's staggering that this many children are being maimed, injured, trafficked, sexually abused daily in this country for decades. And politicians, most politicians know this is going on. I don't want to say all of them. There's people that are doing good work. Of course, there's always a few. But there's a lot of bad apples, and they're benefiting from a lot of money coming in through this funding and grants. All the grants that come into the
Hmm.
medical institutions and colleges and things like that to fund all this garbage that doesn't work. It perpetuates the evil over and over and over again. And it's like we just sit there and go, well, someone else will take care of it. No, it's time we do something. Like we have to confront evil.
Right.
It's heartbreaking. And look, this subject matter, would I rather do shows about rainbows and unicorns? Yes, I would. That would be amazing. That would be a lot of fun. And I have other shows that are a little more light, and we kind of talk usually about God and stuff like that. But like as believers, we are called to fight evil. That's what we're supposed to do. Jesus came into the world to defeat evil. We're to emulate that. We're to walk with his spirit and fight all of this nonsense that's going on and speak up about it. I don't know what the solutions are. Sylvia and I have talked about this a lot. Like, I don't know. I wish I had an easy answer. Like, I think defunding Title IV would help a ton. Like, that cuts the head off the snake. Does that solve the
Little
problem completely?
little things
No.
that I've done here in Illinois that I've tried to help. I mean, Connie is working on that advocacy bill, which I think is a big deal, and I really hope they pass it. We need advocates in the courtroom. We need advocates in the hospitals. Someone who can speak for us, or at least talk to us and say, "Hey, you need to calm down. They're going to use your emotions against you," and like give you the lowdown of what's happening. So with Family Forward Project with Connie, I've got my number out there too. So if people in the area need help, or they can send people to me for that as well. Um, I would like to be like a first call response, or my lawyer is even setting up like a first call response line. So if CPS has contacted you, you call him first before they show up. So he can tell you you're not supposed to talk to them about it. That's Family Forward Project. I've been to Washington, DC with their leader, Connie Regoli, and a bunch of the other women on there. They're absolutely amazing. What we're trying to do with Family Forward Project is spread around advocacy, so people know that they're not alone in this confidential world that we have of Title IV B and D funding. You are made to feel like you are absolutely alone and you can't do it on your own. And that's how they're winning, is keeping people quiet. If you can't discuss with other people how strategies and how to get out of this, or even speak up for yourself in court, demand that you have a lawyer that first hearing, because that's your right. And my people my people perish for lack of knowledge. They didn't know better. And this is very much seen in today's day and age. Just because you can't just claim ignorance is bliss. And
Right.
Yeah.
it may be blissful to feel ignorant, but what is the cost of your bliss? It is children being sex trafficked. It is children losing body parts. It is body parts of these children being sold. This is happening, and we're consenting to it, and we're paying for it.
The
Yeah.
similarities to Nazi Germany and what they were doing, all the experiments they were doing. Now, hindsight's 2020. We look back, we're like, my gosh, that was evil. Like,
Operation
and
Paperclip, they came here.
oh man, it's continued. It's to this
They
day.
were
It's
here.
Operation Paperclip. Yeah,
Well,
they took their
that
scientists,
Operation Paperclip
doctors.
happened at the same time as that study about the tonsils and adenoids in the waterfowl, but nothing ever came from it. Like, I didn't find any more German studies on this pineal gland reaction to the tonsils and adenoids. I would like to see when they started doing these surgeries here in America.
Well, I can tell you, I had mine out at 5 years old.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm 55. Yep.
Are you negative too? Maybe.
You know what? I don't know. I used to know that.
Probably.
It's been so long. I have no idea. Yeah, I'd have to find it out. That's a good question.
I ask a lot of people. I generally, when I first start talking to someone, I'm like, "What's your blood type?" When they start telling me stories about like the system, and most of the time, I've been running into a lot, especially recently in the past 15 years, a lot of RH negative children who've been taken. It's definitely a bloodlines thing too. If they can traumatize a certain bloodline who has the power of God, we all have the power of God. We can all do these things, but there are certain people in each family line that, like Joseph. All these brothers, but Joseph had the story that needed to be told.
Right.
Drew, he's got two brothers. He's got a story that needs to be told. And I refuse. We're doing a 1983 lawsuit for 4th and 14th Amendment violations. I refuse to sign anything that makes me gag ordered. I won't sign an NDA. My lawyer said, well, what if it means it's the only way we'll win? I said, we'll take it to trial because I'm not signing. I refuse. I've already said so much. I've been to Congress. I've talked to the DOJ. Like, who else? I'm not afraid. If that forfeits the lawsuit to be able to tell my son's story, I'll do it again. Awareness is the only way to stop things. You have to know what's
100%.
happening.
100%. NDAs are, I mean, yeah, there's a time and a place for an NDA, of course, for
Yeah.
top secret type things. This is ridiculous. There's no NDAs when it comes to our children. Sorry.
No. I mean, I would sign an NDA like
Speak.
to work for a company. I suppose I'd sign an NDA or whatever, but I would not sign it if I found out you were hurting a kid. Guess what? I'm breaking that contract, and you could take me to court afterwards.
Right. Yep. Because that's what a lot of the nonprofits in the foster care system try to get you to do too, right?
Yeah. Which is fine.
You know,
I think
there's so many layers to this, but it's the same evil. You know, I always go back to the Old Testament. It's Moloch, it's Baal, it's the same gods that they were sacrificing their children to in the Old Testament. It's more refined and defined, the system now, and it's funded. It's actually genius if you're evil.
Yeah, and they've found ways to profit off it financially, to profit off it with their sick addictions. I don't know what else to call it. Somebody who ingests the blood of someone else has got a sick problem. That's not something we do. That is satanic. That is evil. That is demonic. That is Baal worship. Just like what you said, and it's happening. And I mean, they make jokes about it in Hollywood movies like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp, where he tries adrenochrome and they talk about it. Well, then just do a Google search and figure out what adrenochrome is. Why are they pretending to ingest this?
Well, you had Sandra Bullock on what's her name, Ellen's show, right? Talking about kids and their. I'm like, I mean,
yep, circumcised child's
circumcised children skin and just.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of like joking.
Like a tea bank thing. What products are you making out of my son's tissue? Is it going to be a facial cream for some celebrity? Or is his leg going to be the cure-all for every cancer out there? Like, I want to know. And in their paperwork, it says any unused portion has to be returned to St. Jude. So they are like, here, you can have some, but you better give me back whatever you don't use. Like, it's very gross and dark, and it proves that St. Jude's wants the money from whatever is happening there.
And how do we know they're not like cloning stuff? Like literally, I mean, God only knows what they're doing in labs.
Well, I can tell you that I had to get a subpoena to require them to do the genetic testing from that 14 blood draw that they did, 14 tubes. They were supposed to do genetic testing to tell me which chemotherapies my son could potentially fail on, because there is certain tests you can show that they know this child with this type of gene type cannot take this type of chemo. I wanted those test results before they started chemo. I wanted to know every detail I possibly could. They had to be subpoenaed to even send that blood work in to do its test. So they sat there on those 14 vials of blood for 2.5 to 3 months before they even sent them to do the genetic testing, which I got back one result, negative. 14 vials of blood that you held on to for months had to be subpoenaed to do the test that you were told to do. The reason you took his blood in the first place. At what point did they decide to not do that test? Was that before my child was taken from me? I mean, obviously there was over a month in between them taking the blood draw and my son's custody being taken from me. And they just kept the blood in its vials and wherever. And people are like, oh, it's science. This is normal. This is what they do. Everything God does, Satan replicates. So you have to think, if there's really, really good things in this world, there's really, really bad things in this world. There could be one bad person in that lab who's trafficking children's blood. Could be one bad person in that lab who's trafficking the organs. and everybody else is ignorant or signing a paper without reading it first.
Well, we always make this plea. I mean, most shows, I'm begging whistleblowers to come forward, like Sylvia did. You know, like we need people that are in the system that recognize, man, this is wicked stuff going on here. And there's a time and place you just have to stand up. You can be
I mean,
anonymous.
I read on Glassdoor sometimes. It's a website where you can like talk about the job you work at and give them a review. You should read the Glassdoor reviews of St. Jude's Hospital and the things that the employees say about it.
Hmm.
I wish there was a way. It's all anonymous. I wish there was a way to
Yeah.
get a hold of them and say, "Hey, can I interview you?"
Yeah, I mean, and that is, it is something that when workers are, because even a lot of the workers, and I'll tell you from working in the system, anytime that I reported anything, I was retaliated against. So I didn't have anyone to go to report it because I was reporting, but then I was retaliated. So I did go on and make my own little can't. So a lot of the workers go on and make a review because they don't have anywhere to go to,
Yep.
because every time that they report something, they're retaliated against.
Until December of 2024, Illinois allowed trainee investigators to go in and do investigations and take kids if they needed to. That all stopped in December of 2024. My lawyer just called me 2 days ago and he said, "Bailey, did you have something to do with that?" I said, "Maybe." I'm gonna go from the inside out and destroy Illinois DCFS until they do what they're supposed to be doing. They've got so many non-compliant complaints. Heck, our last director almost went to jail for what he did to the kids, leaving them in hospitals for so long. And they haven't stopped. They left my son in the hospital for 123 days straight. He didn't go outside. He didn't breathe fresh air. He didn't see friends or family. They were so strict on who could even come see him in the hospital.
See, but that's the $1 million question. What are they supposed to be doing? I mean, Sylvia's actually brought this up many times. It's designed this way. It's designed to traffic children. Like if you're incentivized to meet quotas, something's
I
wrong
think
from the jump. Like
if we
something's
could
got to
just drop
change.
out the incentives, but then people don't want to work because they're not getting paid what they want to. But cool, maybe this shouldn't be a paid position. Maybe this should be done out of the kindness of your heart in a really bad situation where the kids need help. Maybe it shouldn't be incentivized because there's not enough bad families. There's not enough
Yeah, I don't
abusive
know.
parents.
It's
But if there
it's
are, they're not making
it's
those ones.
it's definitely a complicated situation. There are abused children. Let's face it. Yes, there's bad
Yeah,
parents out there, but it's far and few between.
yeah.
The I don't know. I always forget the statistic. It's almost 90% or something that they're abused in foster care. They weren't abused at home, but yet they'll pull them out of a loving family and put them in a system where they're going to be abused. A 90% clip. Like this is crazy. Like that's failure on every level. And yet
I agree.
no, we're going to keep perpetuating this and keep putting more children in a system that's, I mean, broke or designed this way
Yeah.
to
I mean,
continue this.
the result of what happened to Drew, he could end up developing PTSD. He could end up developing BPD like my mother did because of traumatic events splitting them at a young age. And I pray every single day over my son that he uses this and becomes a stronger, greater man than I could ever dream of him being. But there's always that potential, and it's being done by the same system, generation after generation. They split my mom. I had to go through all that trauma with my mom. Thank God she did what she did. I don't think I mentioned my mom killed herself when I was 18 years old. Right when I got out of foster care, she killed herself. So I didn't have her to lean on.
And
And
you
all
said and you said she was in foster care herself, right?
she was in group homes. I don't think she ever had like a steady home. I think it was just group home to group home. But she did tell me that foster dads had messed with her before. And she'd go into quite detail to the point where we were scared enough to lie when they'd come ask us what was going on. The whole thing, it's so messed up. My family dynamic was super messed up, but she was in a warped way trying to protect me from what happened to her. She just couldn't put it forward that way. I love
She
my
couldn't
mom. She had so many demons. She couldn't cope with it.
she couldn't cope
Thank
with it.
God
Yeah.
that
It happens a lot. The abused become the abuser, and it's because they don't know how to deal with it. Like it's
Yep.
these are deep scars. We've had several people on talking about trauma and the levels of trauma and how they split the mind and all these things, amnesic walls and like
Mhm.
it's dark, deep, satanic stuff like you had mentioned. Thank God there are people that do understand us and that can help. But it's a process. Like this doesn't
Right.
just and does it ever completely go away if you suffered such trauma? No, it doesn't. There's no magic wand that just like, oh, it's gone. I feel wonderful. No, it's a lifelong struggle with those scars. Like it doesn't just go away. And
The
it's
physical
like I
ones
don't
and the emotional ones, like, for my son, how 20 years down the road, how is he gonna feel about what happened to him? Is he gonna be so mad at the world that he just turns to everything bad, or is he that's why I feel like I could just disappear now. I don't have to come forward. I don't have to talk about what happened. We're safe now. But if I don't do this for him and his honor, I'm afraid of what will happen to him when he's older, when he deals with all of this looking down and seeing that he's never going to be like everybody else. So there's an urgency in my message. Um, Everybody can do something, and that is to like let people know that this is happening. You can call your local representatives, state representatives, and ask them what you can do to help get involved. And if you don't want to get involved, just share my stuff, share Sylvia's stuff, share the stuff that goes out that's trying to tell people what's happening, because there are people out there who will help us. And maybe some of them are still stuck in the middle of their court battle, but I need to talk to them so I can help them and get more people out here to help. It just child trafficking is real. The Epstein client list is real, and they were taking foster kids.
100% they were. I mean, where do you think they get children? That's the one thing that blows my mind when they talk about Pizzagate, since we're gonna go down this adrenochrome, and I'm like, okay, where do y'all think they get children?
I
Like,
went to Comet Ping Pong when I was in DC too to Energy Harvest. I felt like something was trapped in there, so I went in there to try to get it out. And my heart rate jumped to like 185. I had a panic attack on the way out, and I was not okay for like 48 hours afterwards. I do feel all of that stuff's real. I know some people are like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, have you been there front row seat to it? Because I have. So,
yeah.
Sylvia, that's such a great point that the foster care is like a clearinghouse for children. It's
Mhm. And
like the
they
middleman. Hey, let's go in and get some product.
yes, they can literally do whatever they want, and I mean, like, they have no power, but they're brainwashed every department to think that they have this power. Like
right,
they've brainwashed the police, they've brainwashed the doctors, they brainwashed. I mean, like, how's a CPS worker going to tell you what your son needs medically? She's not a doctor.
right.
She's not like that's the crazy part. But there's this brainwashing that we've got to get past, because they have literally MK ultra'd every department.
Yeah. I mean, the masses too, just in general. I mean,
The nor
The new Lilo and Stitch movie. Have you heard about that?
No.
At the end, she gives her up to foster care.
What is this?
The Lilo and Stitch movie,
Oh,
the new live action one, at the end she gives up Lilo to foster care. And it's supposed to be a happy ending because the neighbor ends up adopting her and she now gets to live right next door to her sister. But
what?
this is a brand new movie that just came out and it's pushing the same agenda. Foster care is good. Let us have your kids. Lilo and Stitch? No, no. Her sister in the first movie was like a pit bull. She was not going to let anybody take her little sister away from her. And now it's here you go. I can't handle this. The media is even brainwashing civilians and everybody else to just think the system is here to take care of you. If you haven't been paying attention for the past 5 years, no, they're not. They are not here to take care of us. They are here to population control. They are here to manipulate and here to make sure that they keep the money in their pockets.
Yeah, that is 100%.
It's all about
Even
that
to,
control too. Yeah. I mean, I said money earlier, but it's really, they all go together. It's
yeah,
control and money. It's power. Like, and it's the same elites. It's the same people at the top of the food chain trying to control everything. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Bailey. I've said several times, I feel like Babylon's falling. Like, I do feel like the
oh yeah,
justice is coming.
absolutely.
It's going to come really hard and fast for him. It's going to be a swift thing. I felt like God told me that 5 years ago, that there would be a swift justice, a day of swift justice. And he wasn't talking about Judgment Day. He was talking about here on earth. I don't know how that looks. I don't know how it all comes down. Um, I think a lot of people were hopeful that the Epstein files would be released and the list would be released and all these things. But you know what? My hope's not in people, to be honest. People let me down all the time, my whole life. Like, I've been let down by the justice system. I mean, come on, we don't even have a justice system. Let's face it. It's a joke. But there is an ultimate judge, and he will definitely delve out justice appropriately. And I
Oh yeah.
do feel like there's coming a day, like, we are going to see people go to jail. um, I pray for these people. I pray for my enemies. They are enemies. They're enemies of my family. They're enemies of your family, enemies of everybody's family. But I pray for them. I pray that they come to repentance, but they need to serve. There has to be a justice. There has to be retribution for what they've done. And the families that have been literally torn apart for no reason, false allegations, slander, all these things that have been done to the American family in the name of, in the best interest of the child. Like,
Oh, I hate that
what
term.
a scam. What a sick world we live in. That is disgusting. I have, Bailey, in my own family, I've had this conversation several times, and there is a stigma that if a kid's in foster care, the parents are bad. Like, I was raised that way. I remember I knew a couple foster kids when I was growing up, and that was just the stigma. Their parents are terrible people, right? But that's not the truth
Not the
in
truth.
most cases. It's not even close to the truth. They've painted this picture. It's sad.
And
I
it's
don't know
such
what
an
the answer is.
overload of cases. It's such an overload of cases. When I finally came public and I put my number out there for a while, but I had to take it off the internet because I phone call after phone call after phone call every single state. I mean, I've got notebooks full of other people's children's notes about their kids being medically trafficked, and it's a very powerless feeling. I think that's why I'm reaching out in every possible avenue that I can to try to help. I know some things. I can research like none other. I can find out whatever we need to know. Um, I just want to help. I can't sleep at night. I think it's been 2020 since I had a good night's sleep, thinking about all this stuff. When I finally started researching about how many kids were missing every year and where the kids going, and my pineal gland isn't calcified, so I can actually feel the emotions that come with realizing that kids are missing and kids are being hurt. And then just the mom instinct in me to begin with, and seeing firsthand what foster care does to people. It was a system designed to help, but it's not helping anymore. And Bill Clinton incentivizing everything didn't make it any better. But
We
I,
always
I
say it's
really
not a,
appreciate you guys letting me come on here and talk. And really, I want to do whatever I can to help. So if you guys have any ideas, throw me at them.
Well, I have lots of ideas. I always have lots of ideas. So you got my
Perfect.
number. It's hard for us to talk though. I will tell you, when I talked to Bailey, it was like, your phone is really messed up. And she's like, oh yeah, that's who did you call him? Mr. Cooper?
Oh yeah, Agent Cooper.
Agent Cooper. And as soon as I called it out, it stopped. And then it was, but we did better texting than talking. Her phone was the worst I've ever been on ever.
My computer, my laptop. We just last night, the boys and I were watching my computer, someone trying to type in a password on my screen. We were away from it. I've got a pretty good setup. I got two desktops here and a laptop, and I use it for research, um, and other purposes. Like I said earlier, I was a pedophile hunter before all this happened. So it's just been retaliation after retaliation after retaliation for what I do. And I'm not stopping. I'm still doing all the things I used to do, but my phone is tapped. my my internet is a problem. Um, and this stuff is real. I mean, I usually every live I go on, I say I'm not suicidal. I would never leave my kids. I would never go missing. I always say that because that's how deep it is. And when people stand out and talk like Nancy Schaefer, sometimes they end up meeting their maker quicker than they needed to. But I'm not afraid of that. There's nothing they could do. Like, the only thing this world can take from you is your life, and we weren't supposed to be here in the first place.
And this place sucks,
Yeah.
especially with all these people. They're
Yeah,
evil.
I used to tell everybody, like, when the rapture comes, I think he's gonna leave me down here to do some more work, and then I get to go home because I've never been one to let other people do the work for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, sister. I
Yep.
am with you on that. So,
Uh,
but I have lots of ideas, and if we have to meet in person so we can actually have a conversation that's not like broken up every few minutes.
You know what would be amazing, Sylvia, is if we could organize some kind of conference where all of us, like a lot of the women, and I mean it's mostly women. I'd say 90% of our guests are women, probably more. Where we
Yeah,
could
there's a
have a
lot.
conference and meet for like 2 days and just discuss a lot of stuff because there's so many people with great ideas and they're all motivated. They're all advocating now. Um, we need to really put a lot of brain power behind this
We are
and
working
get some
against
influence.
organized crime. We've
Yeah,
got to be just as organized.
And that's it,
exactly.
because they are so organized in their evil. They are so organized, and
But
I will tell them. I will give them
they're
that.
organized. They're organized, but they're funded. See, that's the
Yeah,
problem. They're funded, and they know
federally.
we're not, and they're stealing it from us. That's the amazing.
Yeah,
Like that's why it's so genius. They're literally stealing money from the taxpayer to fund this, to fund
yeah,
human trafficking. It's incredible. It's mind
yeah.
blowing.
So
And the few
evil.
politicians that understand this, I don't. I mean, are they doing anything? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
Um,
Maybe there's
I
some,
do
but
find something pretty crazy. I had went up there and spoke with a woman in a Florida office, a House of Representatives office. The first time we went up in January and talked to her, she like was just sitting there shocked and absorbing everything. We went back in April and she recognized the two. It was me and Terry LaPointe who went into her office the second time. I love Terry. She's one of my favorite people that I've ever met, probably anywhere. She's just so fun. She's running for Congress next year. She's an author. She's written about medical kidnapping stories. I don't know if you guys have had her on.
I don't know Terry. I only know about her. She actually is the one that wrote about Danielle's story. Gina,
Yes.
she's the one that was writing when Danielle started speaking out about 8 years ago, and Terry was, I believe, the only one that would take it on. I'd love to meet her. I've heard amazing things about her. I know that she helped get her story out there. She helped get it into the public eyes.
Mhm.
So, I mean, she's
Ter-
definitely a fighter.
Terry and I have been roommates twice, I guess. We were roommates in a condo for the first week and a half we were up there. And then the second 2 week adventure, we were roommates again, just different bedrooms this time. But I think she's absolutely wonderful. Her and I walked into this Florida office and we started talking to the lady and we recognized her. And she's like, I'm going to stop you right there. I went home and did my research. And she starts giving us the same facts we were there to give her. There's a case in Florida that I was very close, like at heart with two little girls who were medically kidnapped from their home and they were just returned recently. I had been working with that woman in the Florida office. She doesn't have a job there anymore. I don't know what happened. I would love to talk to her and see what happened because she was so on fire doing her own research right there in her desk about the child trafficking involved with CPS, and she's not working there anymore.
hitting them
We
right in
got
their
the
pocketbook.
two girls back. We got the two girls back to their home, but that's not the only two girls in Florida who need to go home.
Right.
So I wonder if she saw too much and walked away, or if they
Most
fired her.
likely they, yeah, I was gonna say most likely they either, well, they try to run you off first, I'll tell you that. Um, and then if not, they fire 'em.
Yeah, and it really hurt because some of them when you talk to them about this stuff, they have no idea. They really don't. And unless they're completely playing stupid and they can fool me, some of them really don't know. And others, like especially when I took the Epstein victim into different rooms with me, you could tell by the look on their face as soon as that name is spoke what their reaction is going to be. Like you're part of the problem or you have no idea how to help.
Yep.
Well, speaking of Florida, remember Pam Bondi, Sylvia, how much she helped us out?
Oh yeah. Florida is so corrupt.
I'll be there next week.
I
I'll
don't
try
know.
not to do any work while I'm down there though.
Oh yeah,
I'm
you're going to the Make-A-Wish, right?
oh yeah, that's right. Well, I know you're going to do great work. I know all the people that we've had on recently, we've had some really like amazing women that are just like ready to like punch this thing out.
I'm gonna have
they're
to watch
working
your other
really
episodes
hard.
and connect with them.
Yeah. There's some really
Oh
great
yeah,
people doing
I can
good work.
connect you with some good people. I can definitely connect you with some good people. In Florida too, there's actually somebody that's going to be on my show next week that I'm working with, and she ran for a state rep. She didn't win, but she's making some moves now.
Good deal.
Yeah, so I can put you in touch with her, and yeah, some good people.
See, it's probably better that they don't win. They can work from with, outside the system. They have some connections. I don't know. I'm praying that the FBI is actually going to do what they're supposed to do here. I'm praying it, but I'm not counting on any of these people. Like it's in the American.
Ahead.
I think it's in our hands. Honestly, I think it's the average Joe sitting on his computer, doing research or whatever. Like, it's like, I got to do something. I got to bring awareness to it. And once enough people's eyes are on it, they're going to be really ticked off.
Yeah.
I've used this example so many times, but I think it's relevant. Remember with the CRT crap that was going on, critical race theory, they were trying to, all this stuff in the schools, right? They were pushing the agenda. And then the mama bear said, no, we ain't having it. And what'd they do? They showed up at the school council meetings, and they would literally fire them on the spot. And if they didn't leave, they stayed there till they left. And it's like, that's civil disobedience. That's our constitutional right to do those things when the government is betraying the citizens of that country, of our country. And it's like, it doesn't mean we're violent. It doesn't mean we're causing harm like they do. It means we're exercising our rights as citizens and saying enough is enough. And especially when it's with our money. That's crap.
I tried to scream at the top of the tops that Illinois taxpayers paid like $4 million to hold my child hostage and dismember him. I'm screaming it on rooftops. I'm like, you guys don't understand. You paid for this. You all paid for this. Is this what you want with your taxes? I would have stopped paying taxes a long time ago.
We need billboards.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Once I win my lawsuit, I'll put billboards in every state. Let me remind you of your right.
I don't know. We need to go viral.
Actually, yeah.
I did, and they took my
son for St. Jude. Woo.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been talking to some of my friends, and now that I've spoken about St. Jude's again, it's all that's going to be on my ads for YouTube and TikTok and everything else. It's all going to be St. Jude's, probably for you guys too. I kind of want to recreate one of their commercials, but with Drew, and put pictures of him being tortured, pictures of him being left alone, down to 40 pounds, and say, this is the truth of St. Jude's. This is my childhood home.
Or you could just drop this podcast in their comment section on all of their.
They blocked me from commenting.
Oh, I'll do it.
Please do, because they blocked me from commenting on TikTok and Facebook, my account specifically.
Okay, well.
I was commenting for quite a while.
Bailey, have you collaborated with other parents that have had similar problems at St. Jude's? Do you have could you start a Facebook group or something like that exposing it?
I wonder if I could. I haven't met anybody else who's been to St. Jude's. All I've seen is like when I posted on Facebook that my son was abused there, I gave like a 3-minute video about what happened that day as soon as it happened. So I had it documented. there was other people saying that they'd seen stuff like that happen too, but I have not had a close conversation with anybody who's been to St. Jude's. I do know the OSF St. Jude's, the one my son was sent to, they're being sued right now for modifying and deleting medical records in a child custody case for DCFS that took 3 little boys from their home for over 400 days. They're being sued for modifying the medical records. The same hospital that took my son, the same hospital that did my brain surgery and all my brain stuff, is being sued for lying on medical records.
And then you
So,
have to ask the question like that. There's a 3-letter word that I love. Why?
yeah.
When you ask that question, it really makes you ponder things. Because I think when I was young growing up, you trusted things. You were just like, well, trust the system. It's
Mhm.
always been here. It's always worked, right? And as I got older, I started looking at the system. I'm like, this is kind of garbage. Like, this is really bad. And then as I've really gotten older, I'm like, we've been duped like my whole life, basically. Like, that's everything's been a lie.
I
And
think
it's
I
like,
was defiant since birth. My bad.
That's me.
Yeah, see, my bad. I think from a really young age, I was like, the school system is broken. The doctors are broken. What's happening? But I've always questioned authority because it was authority that hurt me. And there's a lot of us who've been in those shoes, and that's the problem that they did not think about when they started hurting kids in foster care, is
Yeah.
that we were going to grow up and we were going to do one thing or the other. We were going to be just like you, or we were going to be the complete opposite and ready to attack you. And that's where we're at. They've got a bunch of grown-up foster kids that are ticked off and not going to let this happen to their kids.
Yep. True story.
I wish I was louder before it happened. Maybe it wouldn't have, but there's no way to go back and change it. All I can do is move forward with what we have now. And I know of other moms whose kids had cancer. A little girl had a non-cancerous tumor in her brain even, and they made her do 18 rounds of radiation on it. It never shrunk. Not a bit, but it was right on her pituitary gland. So now she'll have disabilities for the rest of her life. But CPS got involved and said, if you don't let us do this, you won't see her again. People don't understand that aspect of foster care. You think that you're just afraid of kids being abused. No, if your kid has a medical thing they want to test on, you are in danger.
and like the foster care system is guinea pigs for them.
Mhm.
And this is the thing, like if you're a nurse or a doctor's assistant or nurse's assistant and you're like participating in this, I mean, after so many times, you have to be thinking, this doesn't work. Why do we keep doing it? I mean, like
Mhm.
Sylvia started questioning things. She's like, this is weird. Why are we doing this? This isn't helping the child. Like I think I don't care what the job is, whatever your job is. I mean, over time, through your experience, you're going to start noticing things and you're going to be like, well, this can't be right. Like, why don't we have more people coming out? I mean, I again, rhetorical question. I mean, that's their livelihood. They got to go home, pay the bills, feed their kids and all. But at some point, your conscience has to get to you. Like if
Right.
you're a human being and you actually care about other people other than yourself, I call it the unholy trinity, Bailey. It's me, myself, and I. That's what Americans are. We're selfish people. And it's
Yeah.
like if we can get past looking at our own needs, which are important, obviously, and looking to others and helping, then you'll fight evil because you'll be like, no, wait, this is for the greater good. Like it's not
Yeah,
just about me.
God doesn't want us to just focus on ourselves and the power that he will give you when you walk in your path. The power that opportunities flooding in left and right to be able to tell my story. I'm so grateful for it. Opportunities to take leadership positions in helping. Like, if you get up and you get rid of your fear, they try to run you with fear in the system. But if you can throw that fear to the side and know, you really think that the first battle God loses is going to be yours? No, he's never lost one before. Just put your faith in him and keep walking forward. And the strength that he gives you when you make it on the other side. I don't know. I feel bad for the next person who tries to come in and mess with my kids. I really do. I really do, because I know everything I need to do now to shut it down immediately. And I know how to help other people do so too. So they don't have any right to do what they're doing. We do have a constitution. It's the only thing that we have that's worth anything anymore. If you lose that, we lose everything. So that Constitution promises you your children.
Still is we the people, but the
Yeah.
people have to do something.
I served I served everybody with a trust indenture and or war against trust indenture notice, and pretty much malpractice, saying that if they didn't return my child, that they admitted they kidnapped him. It was a sworn affidavit. $10,000 a day till you give my kid back. And I served the cops, I served DCFS, I served the judge, the state's attorney, the doctors, everyone involved, even Illinois Supreme Court served all of them. And that was 2 weeks after they took Drew. I've just fought them with the Constitution since the beginning of this, and that's honestly the best tool you have to fight anything these days. But you've got to know what you're talking about, and you've got to know how to back it up to be able to make it work.
Yeah, and that's the problem, that's where we need to educate parents, because I'm speaking to parents and they don't know their rights, and they just believe the caseworkers, and I'm talking to them, I'm like, they don't, that's not right. They don't have that right. And they're like, what?
But they told me.
Yep, and that's exactly what they say. But they told me, and I'm like, but they lied.
Yeah.
They lied over and over and over and over. So that's one thing that is, we need to educate the parents too.
Right. You do have the right to remain silent, and you should get a lawyer immediately. It's the only time when you're not Mirandized, but you have the potential to lose more than you could ever lose in a regular, like, criminal court investigation. Even if you were to lose your own life, it's not as bad as losing your kids or watching them go through something like that. I can't imagine being one of those moms who doesn't know where their child is in the system, and I sympathize so hard for that. I can't ever make it through a podcast without tearing up when we start talking about not my son. I can talk about that all day long. I've told the story enough, but when we start connecting, like, there's other kids, I don't know what to do then to keep going. If one time of telling my story helps somebody else, I don't know. We got to make the dominoes fall. That's all I know. We got to make this whole system change.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
God gave me. I get lots of dreams, Bailey, and there's one particular dream my daughter actually had, and she was so excited. She woke up. She's Dad, I got to tell you this dream. It was about you. And I'm not going to go into the dream, but it was the ending was really good. Okay, like it was about children and families and reunification, and that's one of those things that I've held on to because I really needed it at that time. I was really like struggling with what we were doing and like my role in it, and not really understanding some things, and even mad sometimes, and even mad at God. To be honest, I was like, "You could stop this. You could stop this today." Um, and I needed that. And then I've recently had one. I didn't even tell Sylvia about one I've had recently, but like I know I've been called to do this alongside Sylvia and others. Like I just know it, and I know we're gonna be part of something really great at some point. And on the other side of this thing, it's mass healing. It's gonna be all about healing, and that's gonna
Oh, I
be
got
like
goosebumps when you
really.
said that.
I did too. I like I
Jesus
always do because
bumps.
it's yeah, it's true. I know God's doing something amazing, and he just uses people, right? I mean, if you know anything about the Bible, he used everyday average people, even below average, to confound the wise, to confound the wisdom of this world, which is not wisdom at all. It's evil.
Yeah.
And so like when you understand that at the spiritual level, because when I first got in this, I was like, what is my role? Like I don't know anything about this. I never even heard of it. Like I was like so naive. And then, I learned a ton from we were working with Megan Walsh. I learned a ton from Megan, still do. I learned a ton from Sylvia, and then others, then all these parent stories. And I'm just like, man, I worked with Terry and Mark for a while, Stemmen, and they were giving me all this information. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And then I started realizing, oh, this is spiritual warfare.
Hmm.
There's like a commonality. Like this is spiritual warfare. And I was like, now I get it. And so when you understand that it's spiritual first, and it is, when you're in this, you said your phone and all these, weird things happening around. Like, oh yeah, that- I've definitely experienced some weird stuff. Like, and some of it's spiritual, some of it was maybe government, whatever, whoever. Um,
Right. But
but
energy can move through electronics too.
oh yeah, but at the end of the day, when you understand that, I have, greater is He that's inside of me. I have Jesus Christ living through me, working through me, giving me whatever talent or skills I need to accomplish whatever He's calling me to do, and I have no fear anymore because I understand that. And the reason I bring that up is because there might be a lot of people like out there like, well, I don't, maybe Christians, like, I don't know, like, what's my role? Like, what would I do in something like this? And like I said earlier, I don't know. I can't answer that for you. You can go to the Lord and say, okay, do I have some kind of part in this? And if it's just sharing a story or, or I don't know, telling a
You
family
know,
member, whatever,
praying for the kids. There's a
praying,
song,
yeah,
Better Days
intercession,
by the
yeah,
Goo Goo Dolls. Better Days by the Goo Goo Dolls. I've been
yes,
listening to it
yes,
a
I know.
lot lately. Says one child saved the world and 100, some number, a lot of numbers. Can't think of it right now. So many more could if we just stopped to pray for them. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing. You know, if you feel super powerless, you don't have to have a specific child to talk about. Just tell God, hey, I need you to watch over the kids in foster care. Can we bring them home? We make sure they're safe. And talk to God like he's your friend. He listens and he knows what you're talking about before you even say it, anyways.
Yeah,
I
that
agree with
was,
you.
that was a great point, Bailey. Like, I mean, if you are out there right now and you're a prayer warrior, we could use coverage. Like,
Yeah.
we could use the intercession. We could definitely use that. Like, if you just pray for what we're doing and others that are doing the same type of stuff, pray for their protection, pray for their families, pray for, that's important. That's the most important thing you can do. I mean, because we need that. And not that God doesn't already have our back. I believe He does. I've been prophesied several times now that His protection's over me and to keep fighting and whatever. But it's like, there's dark days. I mean, like, it's dark subject matter. This is not stuff that I planned on getting into. Like, I did not sit back and twiddle my thumbs like, and when God called me into podcasting and say, let's see, what am I going to talk about? Oh, child trafficking. This is a fun subject. Like, I didn't know, like, that's crazy. But when you see it, you have to do something. Like, you can't allow this. I have children. I have four kids. Like, it's like, they're all older, whatever, most of them. But it's like, it's like,
You'll have grandkids
it's,
someday.
yeah, exactly. So it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating. I guess that's probably the word. It's very frustrating at times. And I know, like, Sylvia preaching to the choir, poor Sylvia. Sylvia gets so many calls and texts and like people reaching out, and I mean, which is awesome because they realize she's standing up, but
Yeah.
she gets overwhelmed too. Like, it's overwhelming because you're just like, okay, I'm just one person, and we all have a life. We're all trying to make a living. We're trying to do our thing. Um, but it's not like crying on somebody's
That's
shoulder.
another
I mean,
way.
like,
That's
it's
another
like
way that they've
complaining.
monopolized our time. They've monopolized our time so much that we don't have the time to put in this effort for to lobbying or whatever else that we need to do to change the way things are. This world has us so dependent on our 8 hour a day job. You have to have that or you lose everything. And then there's the stress of the money all the time. It really gives people no time to sit and think about what's actually happening. Like, I can't pay my phone bill. Oh, wow. This child just was sold to their 13th person this month. That to me, that takes precedence. And that, like you said, it's dark subject matter. It's hard to swallow, but there are people out there who are doing something about it, and we need to help. I mean, ignorance, I'll say it again, ignorance is bliss, but at what cost? I'd rather not be blissful and save one of these kids, even one.
Well, I think a lot of people have been jaded too by a lot of nonprofits that have like scammed them. Like, people send money like they think they're helping. Like, St. Jude's perfect example of that. People I know, I'm not going to mention some. There's somebody I know real well, like very close right now, that has donated like probably thousands of dollars
Oh,
over the years.
they'll even come
And
if your parent leaves their like estate to St. Jude when they die. and the family says we don't want to do that, St. Jude will sue you and take everything. They come for what they're promised. I'm not kidding you. I've seen it multiple times on documents online. I did so much research on St. Jude's. I'm trying to figure out like their Achilles heel to flick them down, but it's going to be people stop. They have to stop funding it. It's all voluntary funds. You have to stop funding child traffickers or organ traffickers.
It's like that with
Aware.
a lot of ministries too. I had to like just put an end to like stop giving these wolves money. Like they prey upon a lot of people that mean well. These poor people mean well, and it's just like feeding their disgusting habits. Well, on that note, let's.
You want to say
On that,
Are we
great.
about to close?
Yeah, we can end. You were fantastic.
One more little cameo here.
Hello.
Hey, buddy, how are you? Can you say hi to everybody?
What's this?
Will you say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi,
What's your name?
Drew.
Say I'm Drew.
You know,
I am Drew.
hey, Drew, I have a son named Drew too.
His name's Drew too.
Yeah, yep.
So Drew
He's
and
older.
then the
He's
number
older than
two.
you, though.
Drew and then the number 2.
Yes.
Yes. I am a blind man. I cannot see. I'm a blind man. I cannot hear. That's physics.
So, what do you think was the thing that got us through this past year the most? What do you think got us through?
Taz.
Oh, your cat. What about
Cat.
Yeah.
you? Will you tell them what you told the doctors about God healing you? Those are fake. The purple ones are real. Do you want to tell them what you told the doctors about God healing you?
I can't remember.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Are you done? You say bye?
Bye.
He'll always hop in the camera. He just doesn't like to talk a lot.
Yeah, I don't blame them. It's strangers and people watching, and it's not the funnest.
Yeah. He's like, Mom, why are you going live? I said, I don't know. I want to help kids.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's if we edited our shows, it would take so much more time.
Yeah, I think live is fine. I need to get over it anyways, because with the position that I've accepted with You Are the Power, I'm going to have to do a lot of talking.
Yes. Well, you're welcome on anytime.
Thank you.
Jennifer and Gretchen come on and give us updates on clients, and I have some of their guests on and stuff like that. So
I'm definitely going to have to like watch through a bunch of your videos too. I've been asked on a bunch of different podcasts, but I'm like, wow, I've never seen this before. And I really like the way that the moderators are talking or the hosts are talking.
Yeah.
And I want to see more. So definitely going to watch some more of your guys' stuff. This is really good. I'm proud of you guys for what you're doing, because we need voices. And the little girl in me who begged for help, appreciate you guys.
well, thank you. It's
Thank
you know,
Appreciate you too.
we have a good catalog. I'll send you some of the shows that we've done, but when you start going through, heck, we've been doing this for what, 3 years, Gino?
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. We've had kind of a wide range of guests. We've had like Kathy O'Brien on about MK Ultra and stuff. Like, so it's been, we'll talk like we have awesome guests come on and talk about like the trauma and things like that. Like, so, but I would say that the gist of what we do is just people telling their stories.
Yeah.
Letting them have a platform to tell their stories. I wish the platform was bigger. I think it will be one day, with the help of people liking and sharing and hopefully believing in what we're doing.
Well, maybe after
Praying
I
for
put
us.
this under St. Jude's comments, maybe it'll just go viral.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, who knows?
I wish we could include St. Jude in the lawsuit, the one in Memphis, but I don't have enough solid proof of organ trafficking because I don't have the receipt of them getting my leg or whatever. So I think they cover their tracks enough. But if the word gets out, maybe less people will feel trusting to take their kid to St. Jude in the first place.
That and a lot of people don't even know what to do, I will tell you, because when they're going through this, they don't know where to turn. And that's some of the calls that I'm receiving is they're searching for help, and our website is popping up when they're searching for help. So I will tell you, it's getting out there.
That's good.
It's just taking some time. So
Yeah, Sylvia, you want to tell people about your website real quick?
yeah, so if you go to rescuethefosters.org, the homepage, this is basically what got us started. So it's Danielle's story and KK's story. And then if you go to resources, this is basically where I have as much resources as well, we're adding. We're not done. But this is the resource page. Gino, I don't know if you remember, we put a rescue alert page for missing kids, and it talks about I noticed that well, it talks about the policies and procedures and stuff like that for runaways in the foster system, because people don't know that they lose hundreds of children every day. Like it's crazy. So 88% of sex trafficking victims come from the foster care system. You know, that's enough right there. But so we have a lot of resources here. And then if you go to media, Bailey, that's where all our shows are.
Okay.
And so it's on the media page, and you can, I mean, like Gino said, there's so many. We've had and that's the documentary we did for Chris Stevens. But there's just so many shows that we've had in the last 3 years. So
I will definitely give them a listen because I need to find more people to connect with and people I can help or similar stories. Like, I don't know a lot of medical kidnapping situations personally. I know more that have happened since my son
yes.
than before, and I can help them, but I just want to have more information. You can
Yep.
research till you're blue in the face, but they're not going to publish the real stories.
We have had quite a
Right.
few medically kidnapped
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are most of them cancer related or Ehlers-Danlos or?
No, a lot. So some of them are like degenerative bone diseases and weird, like digestive issues and swollen. Like I remember one story with a swollen face or something. I think it was a jaw, and it turned out it was an allergy. Like just crazy stuff. And the parents were obviously convicted in the court of public opinion right there in the OR
Right.
or whatever ER. It's stupid. It's just nonsense. Yeah, that was one of them that really shocked me. I got to be honest. Like I remember one of the first ones. Well, Danielle's story was definitely one of the first ones I had heard, and I was just like, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then you just see one after another, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're like churning them out like crazy.
That's what
And
Terry
it's
LaPointe says, that she didn't know about this till she started writing, but now she sees
huh?
them every.
Yeah.
And you think
Yeah.
you're just taking your kid to the pediatrician, right, for a
No.
checkup or something. Yeah, it's just terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. We had a late start over there on X. Sorry, guys. Good crowd over there now. We appreciate you guys so much. If you guys can like and share on all platforms, Rumble, Pilled, also on X, that would be amazing. YouTube, it's streaming over there. I don't know how many people, if there's anybody even there, but we are streaming, so they didn't shut us down. I'm sure I'll get a notification later on tonight, but who cares? I don't care. But thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate you. And like, we need the awareness. We need to get in those algorithms. We were doing pretty good for a while, Bailey, on Rumble. Like we were streaming a lot. So when you stream a lot, you get in the algorithm. So we were getting the views were going up and it was rolling. But then now we kind of cut back and we've only been doing it 2 or 3 times a week. And it's kind of reverted a little bit. So we need the likes, we need the shares. That helps a lot. But if you believe in what we're doing, you can go over to Rescue the Fosters. You can donate to Rescue the Fosters. Sylvia's doing amazing work. So go there and do that. If you want to tell your story, we're an open platform. Free speech. Come on, tell your story. If you're a whistleblower, we need whistleblowers. please, if you're a former caseworker or even working in the system as we speak, and you want to tell a story and you've seen this time and time again, a pattern of abuse, we need to hear your story. We need you to be brave. I think I hate to steal this, but be brave, say something. Like, I know that's that's OMG media stuff, but it's true. Sometimes you just got to be courageous. You got to stand up and say, you know what? If you're a man, have some testicular fortitude. Like that's really important. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Have a great night. God bless. Bailey, if you can hang on, we're just going to close out the show and we'll talk and say goodbye on Zoom right after. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
Insecure and left alone to defend for ourselves. We are praying to the Lord for when this nightmare is going to end. How many more sleepless nights? How much more pain and tears do we have to endure? When can I see my family or someone who cares for me? Are we not good enough? Or are we just some test rats that have to follow orders? Are we just worth $1? Or are we actually being taken care of? Our hearts are burning in pain, and tears keep falling from our cheeks. Tired of crying and having our emotions in cycles. Our voices are being empowered by the ones who have more authority than us. However, today is the day it ends. No more feeling ashamed and leaving abandoned. We are standing up tall and raising our voices high. We are a child of God, and our work has just begun. God thinks we are worth enough and worth fighting for. God has our back and no need to fear. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Now one more child is going to be left alone and abandoned. Thank you, Jesus, for all you have done for us, and all glory goes to you. In Jesus' name, amen.